Chair, you have a live mic.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. Just want to remind everyone to please turn your cell phones off because it can be distracting and it can be embarrassing. So we want to save you from that. I do want to remind you, if you're registered to speak this morning, you got 3 minutes. When the little yellow light goes off, that's 30-second warning. When the red light goes off, that means we're finished. So if you could please adhere to that. Also, when public speakers come up, this is not an emotional time. This is business. So whether you agree or whether you disagree, I'm going to ask you to hold your applause or hold your scoff because I don't want to put up with that. So Commissioner LaCastro is right on time. Everybody give him a round of applause.
There you go.
I took the District 5 roads. They're horrible. District 1 usually get through perfectly.
And on that note, you weren't here, but please shut off your cell phone, sir.
Oh.
We don't want you to be embarrassed.
Hi, Mama McDaniel. We just want to make sure you're watching. We want to say hi.
She's on there. Mother is watching. I saw her at the computer this morning. Right. So good morning, Mother.
Hope everybody made it safe. It's pretty treacherous out there right now.
Yes, then.
Well, we'll get the pledge and the prayer done, and that'll help us.
Amen.
Commissioners, we have the invocation today by Pastor David Wildman, Grove Church Estates, and our pledge will be led by Joe Selesky, United States Air Force Buck Sergeant from the Korean War.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather again for this commissioner meeting this morning. Even if it's raining outside, we're grateful that we get to be here safely in this place. We thank you for this beautiful county that we get to call home, and we don't ever want to take anything for granted that we've been given. We lift up the commissioners and every decision maker in the room this morning. We pray a blessing over their families, over their households, over their children. We request your wisdom and your guidance as you promise us in the book of James, that when we ask for wisdom, that you give it to us liberally. We pray for all the residents and visitors and people that call this county home, and all the entrepreneurs and business owners and first responders and military personnel. And we pray protection over them and each and every one of them, especially as they're working out in this weather this week especially. We thank you, Lord, for the discussions that are taking place today. We seek for your wisdom and your guidance. The decisions are being made that are in the best benefit and for those who call this county home and live here and work here. We pray that the right words will be said in the right time and in the right tone in this room this morning. We emphasize your wise stewardship, Lord, that comes only from you and from your wisdom, from your word. We aim to reflect your love and truth in all actions, and we strive to do the best for everyone in the community. And we pray all these things in your holy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job. I'll ask for the motion. I'm going to make a motion to allow Commissioner Kowal to join us on Zoom.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning, Chairman. I hope you can hear me.
Oh, yes.
Commissioners, agenda changes for June 11th, 2024. Item 10B will be heard at 9:30 a.m. This is a recommendation to adopt the attached resolution in opposition to Amendment 4, titled as American Amendment to Limit Government Interference with Abortion, which, if enacted, would amend the Florida Constitution to greatly enhance abortions in Florida. This is at Commissioner Hall's request. Continue item 16E1 to June 25th, 2024. This is a recommendation to approve and authorize the chairman to sign a memorandum of understanding between Collier County and MHP Bembridge LLC to further affordable housing initiatives through an $893,826.24 impact fee loan authorized using federal, state, and local fiscal recovery funds to reimburse the Affordable Workforce Housing Fund in the amount of $893,826.24 and authorize all associated budget amendments and authorize the chairman to execute all related loan documents. This being moved at staff's request. Move item 17A to 9B. This is a recommendation to approve an ordinance rezoning a 4.86 plus minus acre property located at 135 Price Street from the Rural Agricultural Zoning District to the Residential Single Family 2 Zoning District to allow up to 3 single-family dwelling units in Section 4, Township 51 South, Range 26 East, Collier County, Florida. This is being moved at Commissioner LaCastro's request. And I move item 16B 15 to 11G. This is a recommendation to authorize the county manager or designee to provide $5,333.33 to the Trust for Public Lands for preparation of a grant application for the acquisition of the Seminole Gulf Rail Line and to pledge up to $241,611 towards the local match for the grant. This is being moved at Commissioner Hall's request. To have an agenda correction, item 9A should be listed with a District 2 rather than District 4. And we do have 2 times certain items. Item 10A to be heard prior to item 4 proclamations. This is a resolution naming the helipad located at the Collier County Sheriff's Office District 8 substation in Immokalee, the Larry H. Ray LTC retired U.S. Army helipad. And then, as noted, item 10B is to be heard at 9:30. That's a resolution in opposition to Amendment 4 titled as an amendment to limit government interference with abortions. We do have court reporter breaks scheduled for 10:30 and again at 2:50. And with that, we do have speakers, I believe, on the consent agenda if you want to do your changes in ex parte, and then we'll go to the speakers, or vice versa.
We'll do changes in ex parte, and then I'll address this before we do the speakers. So changes in ex parte. Commissioner Kowal.
I have no changes and nothing on the summary consent.
Commissioner Saunders.
Thank you. I have no changes to the agenda and no disclosures on the consent agenda.
Commissioner McDaniel.
No changes and no disclosures on the consent or summary, sir.
Commissioner LaCastro.
I have no changes. I have one disclosure on summary, which was 17A, but I think that's one of the ones that we've moved. I had correspondence.
And I have no changes and no ex parte. So can we have a motion to approve it?
I want to hear the.
Yes, I have, actually, I have a second consent agenda item I've received a speaker slip for. Maybe we'll call that one first because I have 16 on the other item. 16D8, Manny Tehran. There's Manny.
There's Manny.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Manny.
I want to thank the Board of Commissioners, the CRA, and the county staff for all their efforts to bring renovations of the Immokalee Sports Complex fields to the consent agenda. Immokalee parks have been in need of attention for some time. The commission has heard, and they are delivering. Youth sports in Immokalee continue to grow. This past week, we were able to have the assistant head coach from FGCU men's soccer team to provide a 4-day camp for 30 of our players, and last night, we had 78 players on the field at the start of our Summer Skills Academy. With fields closed at the Immokalee Sports Complex, we are fortunate to lease space at both high school and Boys and Girls Club for daylight hours. We realize that the path to adequate field space in Immokalee is going to be a long, bumpy road for anyone who uses fields, but we have our eye on the prize. The renovation of the sports complex fields is a great first step. We hope it is soon followed by fields at the Williams property. Thank you so much for all your recognition to our issues in the sports arena in Immokalee. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thanks, Manny.
Mr. Chair, the other 16 speakers are all speaking on item 16B14, which is a paratransit grant item. Your first speaker is Charles Lascari.
All right, so before we get started with 16 speakers, if everyone is going to say the same thing, you certainly have that right, and we want to hear it. But this is a consent item that we plan on passing. So if there's an opposition, we want to know that. or if you have specific questions, let us know that, and we can get you directed to, I believe it's Brian in the back after, as soon as we pass this. So there again, you have every right to speak for 3 minutes, but if you're going to say the same thing, we're all human up here. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. I may need some help with knowing when my time is up because I won't be able to see the colors.
There will be a single beep at 30 seconds to go, and then it
We'll
will
help
beep
you that.
after that.
Okay, thank you. My name is Charles Lascari. I have been a resident of Collier County for the past 10 years after relocating here from New Jersey. I am in District 4. I am living with macular degeneration, which means that I have lost all of my central vision. I still have some vision, which is peripheral vision, which means that I can find my way back to my seat, but I can no longer read, I can no longer write, and I can no longer drive. And I can no longer recognize faces. That has been a life-changing event for me. I will tell you very briefly that I spent my whole entire career working as a registered nurse in 2 large medical centers in New Jersey. I felt my greatest achievement was helping a local hospital to get designated as a level 2 trauma center. And then following that, I was able to go before a board similar to this to convince the board and the public to build a helipad for the transportation of critically injured patients to our local hospital. I was awarded Citizen of the Year for that because it enabled the residents in the area to approve building a helipad in a very residential area. I've worked in surgical intensive care units, I've worked in emergency rooms, and I've worked in organ transplantation. Next month, I am due to renew my license as a registered nurse after working for 50 years. I can no longer do that. I am still mentally able, I am still physically able, but I no longer have the sight to be able to start an IV in your arm, look at your cardiac monitor to make sure you're not going into a lethal arrhythmia, or be in the operating room to guide the right kidney to the right room, to the right patient with the right blood type. It's disappointing to me to not be able to do that any longer. As a result of that, I have to depend on somebody to get me every single place I go. I have relied on the paratransit system, which I've been writing for the past few months. I am grateful for that system, but it is not an ideal system. Sometimes I feel like a 7-year-old kid waiting at the window for the bus to arrive. Sometimes I have to be ready an hour and a half early. Sometimes the bus shows up late and I miss my appointments. I'm here to ask for your support for additional funding for the paratransit system. There are many others like me who are more blind than I am. But don't think about me. I'm a 74-year-old man. Think about the young kids in kids camp at the Lighthouse, or for the 19-year-old I ride the bus with, or for the lady in a wheelchair who's wheelchair bound. We need to get to the places we need to get. Funding is short. I understand there are going to be some cutbacks in funding because we are already year-to-date over budget. I am currently on the local coordinating board of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and I guess my time is up. But I am in full support of a grant for more buses and more drivers to help us get to where we need to get.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you.
Your next speaker is Joel Monoxil, and Joel will be followed by Alan Behrman.
Yeah. Here's the microphone. You can speak right now, okay?
Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Joe Monexil. I got in 1989. I'm working for public department. I got a big accident on the head. After that is I'm going to doctor appointment for the blind, for the my vision is a problem. I'm not drive because the doctor has got a shot on the left side. He's blind me. December 2009, 23, no, December 23, because after January I'm come back, I'm blind. I tell my doctor, it's what happened. Because before I'm see everything, now I'm blind. So I don't know, because you got a shot on the left side. Why? Okay, because I'm talk to my lawyer. My lawyer talk to the doctor. Doctor say, I don't know, Joel is a diabetes. Joel, yeah. The doctor say, my lawyer say, no, Joel before he's not blind. He weekend is good. Okay. After that, I'm go. My lawyer call for my vision blind. The vision blind help me because I'm coming for the house, because now each try help me. The paratransit is for a long time. The paratransit he help me because now is the people, new people, new company that come in the paratransit is the name the Kevin guy. Anytime he change the tablet on the left side. Sometimes I'm leaving Radio Road because he talk to people, and the people Imokali Road, because he come back. My house is my home is 15 minutes because he go the Imokali Road. Sometimes I've got 2 hours on the bus. I'm hungry. I'm tell Kevin, what happened? Is no good. I'm called the manager, Mali. He's help me because Kevin, because he's supposed to know this part. He go for the driver because Kevin is not ready for the job. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Alan Behrman. He will be followed by John Castle.
Here's the microphone.
Okay, hi. Hi, thank you very much for letting me speak. I'm a little bit, it's very, very confusing after hearing that there's so much support for the program. I'm not used to getting things that I wanted. The last time I asked for something, a bicycle, my mother sent me to military school. And when I heard the bugler, and I wanted the bugle, and when I called her and asked for that, she made me stay several more years. So it's rather confusing to find people actually in support, and most of the others will tell you that many of the problems that we get, and the confusion on the bus, and being driven all around, and I know it serves so many people besides the blind community. So the more buses, it's just an amazing benefit, and I sure hope nobody's angry at me for wanting that. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Your next speaker is John Castle. He'll be followed by Martin Clive.
Thank you. I'm not going to get into my personal situation or anything like that. I'm in favor of a budget increase to the Para Department, but throwing 6 buses to sit in your yard is not going to solve your problem. You don't have enough drivers for the equipment you already have. Take that money, revamp the dispatch system, and revamp the logistics as a whole, and that'll solve your problem. You have enough equipment. It's just not being run right. And that starts from the top down. I'm sorry, I don't know who she is or him, so I'm not trying to throw nobody under a bus here. But solve the problem. Don't just throw equipment at it. And if you solve the logistics problem, I guarantee you'll see about a 20% decrease in your overall fuel cost, which you won't have to sit here and keep upping the budget. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Martin Clive. He'll be followed by Patricia Headley.
Good morning. My name is actually Martin Delahaye. My middle name's Clive, but never mind. I'm here very simply to support as much help as we can get for disabled people of all types, but especially for people like us who are blind or disabled. It's very difficult when you can't see to lead an ordinary life. I'm a little more fortunate than many. I have a carer who can drive me to most places. But if that carer stops, I'll be using the buses more. And we've all heard the horrendous stories of people trapped on buses for hours on end. I'm not too sure my bladder would last that long, but my support is purely here for more buses and more staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin.
Your next speaker is Patricia Headley. She'll be followed by Majken Elgard, excuse me.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Headley. Oh, I have to. You can tell I'm blind. What's this? Okay. I'm Patricia Headley. I am a former professional tennis coach. I also worked for American Express in my salad years. I suddenly lost my eyesight and my ability to read, my ability to drive, and my ability to hit an ace. But I have to tell you, I've heard all the scuttlebutt about budget and everything. Let me tell you something. Naples is the richest per capita city in the United States, as according to the news. I don't want to hear that there's not enough money in a budget to help people like me. And I think that you can figure out a better way to get more buses, more bus drivers, and better dispatch than what you have now. Because I sat on a bus the other day for 4 hours. My back teeth were floating, let me tell you. So I think you need to do a better job and get the money from the rich people who are knocking down $100 million mansions and building new ones. So that's all I have to say, because I get a little bit mad when I don't hear, oh, there's not enough money, because there is enough money. You got to find it. Thank you so much.
Your next speaker is Majken Elgard, and she will be followed by Kent Husted.
I hope I said that correctly.
You did not. My name is Majken Elgard. I am, like most of the people here, legally blind and very, very, very dependent on the Cat Connect bus. Unfortunately, I appreciate the service very much, because without it, I'd be totally lost. They were even worse than it is. However, the schedule, not the scheduling, but the routing is terrible. The other day, I live in the northern area or section of the area. We were 3 people on the bus. The driver took the first person to a community about 5 minutes from the northern border of the district, dropped that person off. Then he turned around and went south for 20 minutes to drop another person off. Then he turned around and went north for another 20 minutes to drop me off, which means that 40 minutes were wasted. If they had gone from the southernmost person to the next person to the next person, would have saved half an hour of time and driving. So I am definitely in favor of getting more vehicles. A thought I have is I am frequently one person on a bus that has room for 12 to 14 people. I have occasionally been on a SUV that holds 4 people or 3 people. And it may be more advantageous to get more SUVs to service more people. I don't need one bus for 12 people for one person. So I would suggest going for the SUVs rather than buses, but that's my idea. And lastly, I want to compliment Cat Connect, because they have greatly improved the telephone service, which used to be outrageous, and now it is very good. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Kent Husted, be followed by David Whitney.
Right up to the podium. The microphone is right here.
Hi, gentlemen and ma'am. I really appreciate all of your work. And we're here today just to talk about how important Cat Connect is to us. I can't drive anymore, and I really rely on it to get around to the doctor's appointments, go to the grocery, go to the lighthouse, where we have iOS class, where we learn about tech. We have book clubs, and we have support groups, and it's really important. But recently I've started just zooming in because sometimes the buses are just they're not on schedule. I mean, it could be an hour past. They cannot show up. They could take me off the bus and reroute me. So it gets a little annoying sometimes when you're waiting for the bus and they don't show up, and it's hard to schedule your day. And I'd like to also say the employees are wonderful. The drivers are wonderful. They help us get to our door. They're very good, and the managements, they're very good. I just don't think there's enough buses, and I'm on the bus by myself a lot, and sometimes I scratch my head when you could have SUVs or smaller cars. It'd be a little bit easier to move more people around. That's about all I have to say, and thank you very much for listening to me.
Your next speaker is David Whitney, and he'll be followed by Mike Rinaldi.
Hopefully I'm in the right place. My microphone working? Yeah, I'm David Whitney. I moved here 11 years ago. I was a teacher up in Georgia, and I also worked as a professor, adjunct professor at the University of Georgia. Moved here 11 years ago, and one of the reasons I moved here was because of the Lighthouse of Collier for the Blind, and another was because of the paratransit system, because that wasn't good where I lived. Ironically, my own brother was a computer programmer that worked for MARTA, the rapid transit system in Atlanta, and as a result, paratransit is a federally funded program, but unfortunately it's run by individual counties, which I don't think is really fair to you guys, so thank you for doing what you're doing and listening to us today. But example being, when that went through, up in Atlanta, they had one guy that they'd have to pick up a full-size bus to take him to wherever. You do it better, but it's not perfect. I've been fortunate enough to ride this service in Sarasota a number of times, run by a different company, which is, I have to just say, much better. I will say 4 quick things that would make this service the way Collier County really should be and advertises itself as being elite, but as the visually impaired, disabled, elderly people were quite often the forgotten people, bottom of the barrel. So I just want to make my point. First of all, when it comes to us paying our individual fees, great. $3 each way, $4, I don't care. Please take credit cards, for crying out loud. You know, it's everything. Whether you take Uber or I have to get my groceries delivered, they have my credit card on file. If you have my name, my address, my phone number, you can have my credit card number, and I would just like to call in and say I need a ride from my house to the Lighthouse of Collier or to one of my 6 different doctors that I have appointments with. I have multiple sclerosis in addition to my eye disease, so I have a lot of doctor's appointments, and I get tired of calling and having to tell them I'm not going to be there on time. Take credit cards, pay the drivers more. they only get $12.50 an hour. Last I heard, I hope that's gone up, but that's $25,000 a year. No one's going to do that job for that money. We used to have a simple program when I started here where I simply would call in. I'd mail in a check for $30. They'd send me 10 $3 tickets, and I know I'm out of time. But at least it worked. All of a sudden, in the last few years, I'm not sure what changed, if it was the company that changed that you hire for it or what, but the service got to be horrendous to the point where I had to cancel and cancel and cancel doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment. That's humiliating, and it's not right, and I know you guys know that it's not right. So please let this go through. If you want to see a model that really is done nicely, like I said, the one in Sarasota, which from my research is run by a company called Breeze, and the shuttles are cleaner, they're quieter, they're nice, they're on time. And yes, the people that do work for paratransit.
Let's wind this up, Mr. David.
Yeah, people are very nice, and I'm in favor of this. And for the one person at paratransit that when I called to say my driver couldn't find me, she simply said, well, can't you just hold up your cane? Think of this building we're in right now. If I'm on one side of the building going like this and the driver's on the other side of the building, how are they going to get to me? They're not, right?
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you again.
Your next speaker is Mike Rinaldi. He'll be followed by Madalena Diasamito.
My name is Mike Rinaldi. I've lived in Naples since 1997. I joined the blind group about 2 years ago when I had a stroke, and I was clueless about disability. I had no idea the depth of the need until I had this blindness stroke happen to me. So I'm here to say that you need to allocate a lot more money for the bus service and for the vans. We also need to be more creative in what we do, because we met with Brian Wells more than a year ago, last budget season. He said, oh, we're getting 6 new buses, net new buses, and we're using grant money. It's like big deal. If they're building a house next to me, it's going to sell for $10 million. We need to find more money and use the grant money and get more cash for more buses. And it's not just the buses, it's the routing. We need people from the outside to come in and evaluate how the routing's being done, because people are getting stuck on the bus for hours, as the other person had said earlier, back and forth without a proper logistics plan. Maybe there's better software, maybe there's some AI out there that can improve that. But yeah, we're here just to show you that there's a real need out there and it's not being met, and if you're not disabled, you don't see it. And keep in mind, most of us are old. This is a suburban community. It's all spread out. It's so hard to get to places once you can't drive. So get creative, look to the outside for better scheduling, and maybe you need a waiver from the federal government. Maybe Byron Donalds can work on that for us so we can get inexpensive vans that don't have the lifts, because many of the people are ambulatory, but we just need the transportation help. Thank you for listening.
Your next speaker is Madalena Diasamito, and she'll be followed by Jan. I'm not sure if this is Wolf or Wolk. Wolk?
The microphone is
Right
right.
there, the microphone is in front of
Okay. Good morning. You pronounced that very well, Madalena Diosamito. Say that 5 times and you'll be cured of anything. I just want to share my experience with the cat. As you can see, I am blind. I have retinitis pigmentosa, and after quite a few years, I've lost vision in both eyes. My daughter, Kiana Diosamido, has cerebral palsy, and she's confined to a wheelchair. Kiana and I use the cat on different occasions. The cat is very important to us. Let me backtrack a bit. I was a teacher. I was forced to retire because I lost my vision. So you can imagine how I felt. I was very active in my community. I would go to work every day. I'd teach my students. I'd go home. I'd take care of my daughter and my husband. And after losing my vision, it was difficult. But I needed to work towards independence, and that's what I encourage in my daughter as well. It doesn't matter how physically challenged she is, she's important to this world, and she can do anything or everything as everyone else, just in her own way. And so Kiana and I use the cat, as I said, to get to the lighthouse, to go to doctor appointments, social events. Unfortunately, there are times where now, don't get me wrong, we are very appreciative of the cat. Without them, we couldn't do a lot of things. I do have my husband who helps us, but it's very important for us to be as independent as we can so that I don't have to rely on my husband or other people all the time. But there are times that the cat fails. And either we're late to appointments, which are very important, or to the lighthouse or other issues is that. Another thing that's very difficult is that those of us who are riders on the bus, at times, as you've heard some of them mention, we're on the bus for hours. And I want you all to think of this. You've seen quite a few of us walk up here who are visually challenged and or blind. Close your eyes for a minute, just for a minute, and listen to what I have to say. You get on the bus, you can't see. You tell them where you're going, or the drivers know, and they're very well. And now you're on the bus for 3 hours, and you don't know where you are. You don't know where you're heading. And you get home hours after the time that you're supposed to be there. Just think of that. Think of your children. Think of yourselves. At any moment in time, any of you here could be in our position. And so we're just asking that you provide more funding so that we can get more buses, but also improve the way that they dispatch the buses. Because at times, as someone mentioned, we go all around the town before we can get to our homes or to our destinations. So I just thank you for listening to us, and remember that we are all paying taxes. You know, we're all citizens here, and we're just looking for a better life for each and every one of us.
Thank you, Magdalene.
Thank you.
Your next speaker is Jan Wolk. She'll be followed by Maria Gutierrez.
Mr. Miller, how many more speakers do we have on the subject?
We have 5.
I just want to remind you, we understand the problem. We understand it very well and are empathetic with it. We're going to try to do our best here in just a minute, as soon as we get through these speakers, to approve this grant. So if you have something that's different, sure, we want to hear it. Some of the solutions that we've heard so far, we are taking all notes, and we appreciate those solutions. So, Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have anything really different to say. It's just that since I have been diagnosed with severe glaucoma, I had to give up driving, and it's really hard not to be able to jump in the car and go somewhere, and you have to get somebody to take you, or plan around somebody else's work day. I do take the cat to and from the lighthouse. Coming to the lighthouse is not too much of a problem, and I haven't have any problem being late. It's just coming back again when they're to come and get you at 2:30. You might be waiting an hour or so for them to come, even though they tell you you're going to come home at 2:30. And then again, just like the others say, you're stuck on the bus. I live 5 minutes from the lighthouse, And other people, of course, are further away. And the other day, they came and they went straight through my development, right past my house. And I said to them, I live right here. Well, of course, they couldn't stop because they had to take somebody else way up yonder and then come back and all this. That's the problem we're having, where people should be picked up and taken to where they, like all the people in Marco Island in one place, go on that bus, not all over the place. And I think if we had more buses, we could probably do that and have bus for, Golden Gate, come and pick up the Golden Gate people and so forth. And that's the situation that I see happening. And I hope that we can, get this resolved. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Maria Gutierrez, and she'll be followed by Judith Townsend.
Good morning. My name is Maria Gutierrez. I am here just to support the funds for the transportation that you hear some of the other people. It's a kind of frustration when we ride the bus. In my case, I lost sight of my vision in 2017. And I started using the Cat Connect services like 2 years ago. It's like different story every day when we ride the transportation. Some of us we need to use because work or like social events, like others said. But sometimes we can be on time, maybe not, too early or too late. The Cat Connect transportation is doing a little bit better with the phone when we call. But for example, sometimes when I call to cancel my trip, nobody answers the phone, or I leave a message. I don't know if they hear the message or not. Even the drivers, sometimes they want to do the best that they can to help us to be on time for the appointments. But also we understand that they need to follow the instructions that they have from dispatch. I know that they need better management. I don't know how, training maybe, or better way to schedule the trips, and that way we are not going to be long time riding the buses. In my case, I have a record of 3 hours in the bus. I think that is unacceptable to be in north and then go down to southeast. In my case, I live in Golden Gate Estates, and even when we say Golden Gate Estates, it's not like we are like in distance from 10 minutes away. Sometimes it's up to 25 minutes away from place to place. And I think they need to know the distance between places in order to consider our time when we ride the buses. Since sometimes we are not getting lunch, and it's just simple. We are a long time out from home. Thank you. That's all from me.
Your next speaker is Judith Townsend. She'll be followed by Scott Flagel.
I'll say good morning, first of all, and I want to let you know that I want you to think for a moment. I have nothing with me. As you can see, I have no cards and nothing else. I want you to close your eyes and think about what it was like to get ready this morning. How quickly did you jump out of bed? How quickly did you do all those things? You find that it goes fast, don't you? Just like a snap of your fingers, you've had your coffee, you've had your shower, you're ready for work. When you have a vision impairment, it doesn't take that long. It probably took the people who are here days to plan for the fact that they are going to be coming to this meeting. How are you going to dress? Well, first of all, when you decide that you're going to be coming and dressing, you have to decide which way to put on your clothes. Otherwise, they're on backwards or inside out, which is many times. If you have a vision impairment, you have to think about, oh my goodness, what color are the clothes? I hear a voice whispering, shh. I forgive me. I am rambling, and it's part of me having had a stroke. And because I have that, I tend to jump from one subject to another. What I wanted to do today was come here and just express the need for the transportation. As we all know, we have it. I had a stroke. I was driving. I was working full-time last November, and all of a sudden I found that I was lying unconscious on the bathroom floor. I was paralyzed for approximately, I think, 2 months. I was in ICU. I was unable to drive. I came home from the hospital in a wheelchair. My left hand was totally paralyzed. My left side was paralyzed. I've had to come and go through rehab with all of those things, and I'm better for it. It's tenacity and determination that have made me feel what I am able to do, and I'm determined. And I'm not going to give up this fight for having people having transportation. I don't have it, and I need it. It is. I cannot express to you in words how confining. And somebody mentioned the word independence. We don't have independence when we can't jump in the car and drive and go somewhere. I don't have that anymore. I can't jump in and, okay, I'm ready, let's go. Your friends are ready, they can go. I used to have a full-time job, as I said. I don't have that anymore. I was working with children with special needs, and please get back. We need transportation. Thank you.
Well, Judith, you look great today.
Well,
You did well.
Your next speaker is Scott Flag. Is it Flagel or Flagel? Flagel. And he will be followed by Nicole Aguilar.
Good morning. I'm the CEO of the Lighthouse of Collier, and just want to share a few comments. I'm not visually impaired, but I have to tell you that every agenda that I have at the Lighthouse, we have an advisory committee made up of clients, and we want to set the agenda and meet every month. And what's first on the agenda? Transportation, paratransit. Let's get to the second item. What's on the agenda? Paratransit, transportation, and so on. And that's what our meetings, where we're trying to work on all the aspects of living, visually impaired or blind. That's what we're dealing with at the Lighthouse. We send out a satisfaction survey, and what comes back, you can rate different items to correct. Staff is hoping they're going to give us some ideas about maybe new programs, new ideas. What comes up first? I don't have to tell you, because we've taken it, an hour of your time today to talk to you about it. And I think this is what happens sometimes when things get so bottled up and don't get a resolution, that this, unfortunately, we had to take an hour of your precious time on the agenda. We did try to go through the right process. We invited paratransit in. We've had them in for meetings with our clients. We've had them invited to different events. So we've tried. So I guess what I want to leave you with is it's a bigger problem than just funding. It's really making sure, and I do appreciate the grant that hopefully is going to be passed after this is done, but it really needs to be looked at as an important aspect of living in Naples for all the people with disabilities to have a reliable system. And I don't have all the answers, and there are good days. We're not, and I've heard some positive notes, but it's not good to not know. It's like 50-50. If you woke up this morning, you were getting into your car, and you thought there was 1 in 2 chances that your car wouldn't start, how would you feel? Because you wanted to be here, you had to be here, you had a responsibility. So that's what they're faced with, is that the probability is not good when they call and get transportation. Sometimes they luck out. And I'll just close that we sit ready at the Lighthouse to work with the staff and to you and any other suggestions that you might have to help with this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plegler.
Your final speaker on this item is Nicole Aguilar.
Hi, good morning.
You can pull the mic down.
Nicole.
Hello. So it's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Lighthouse of Collier staff. Lighthouse is the only center in Collier County to serve individuals who are visually impaired or blind. We currently serve over 300 clients every year, and approximately 150 clients require transportation to get to our center. During my time working at Lighthouse of Collier, I can see that every day the paratransit system hasn't improved. Our clients have to wait 2 to 3 hours to be picked up and 1 to 3 hours inside the bus on the way home. That is why some of our clients are here to talk about their experience with the paratransit system. They're grateful, but they need your help. Thank you for listening to us, and have a nice day.
Thank you, Nicole.
And that's all of our speakers on that item, sir.
I'm going to move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I do want to say thank you all for coming. We've listened. We've heard every single one of you. We have empathy for you, and we understand your frustrations, and I can promise you as a board, we will empower those that are in charge to make the right decisions and to make the changes necessary to improve your life. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I say
Yes.
one thing? And this isn't, Scott, you and I talked a couple of weeks ago when we were on the boat ride. It's important that, and again, this isn't all just about money. There was one fellow that talked about organization, logistics, but it's important for the community to hear this county spends $7 million a year on paratransit and those efforts to help our folks with developmental disadvantages. $3.5 million, approximately 50% of that $7 million comes from the federal government with grants. So for an informational standpoint, I really appreciate hearing from the community that with specifics as to what we can do better to better help our folks that are suffering from these disadvantages.
Commissioner Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think one of the things I heard this morning that is troubling, and there were a lot of things in terms of the problems that you're experiencing, but one of the things that troubled me quite a bit was the issue of logistics and not being able to have routing done properly. And what I'd like to suggest to the commission is that we have our staff come back at our next meeting, because we're in budget process now, but routing, that should be something that with technology, it should be a whole lot better than it is. But I don't know who on our staff is in charge of the paratransit, but I'd like a report at our next meeting on what the issues are and what we need to do to improve that as part of what we're going to be doing going forward with this issue. So I also want to thank everybody for being here. Yeah. I do understand how difficult it was for you to get here this morning.
Commissioner Castro.
I want to echo thanks as well for coming and giving us valuable feedback. But and we just mentioned her name. Trinity Scott is one of the superstars on our county staff. We always know we can do things better, and you've given us a list. We all wrote down things that were repetitive, so that tells us that it is a problem. But leave here knowing that we don't have Abbott and Costello running CAT. Trinity Scott is Ronald Reagan would consider his kitchen cabinet, and so I'm sure she's in the back end hearing some things, and we don't always get it right, and we definitely can get it better. As Commissioner McDaniel said, we throw a lot of money at transit services. This commission, especially in the last year or so, we want to make sure we're not just spending money, but we're investing it and we're not wasting it. And so you've given us a lot of good things, and I can tell you it didn't fall on deaf ears. And the top person of the organization that you're here giving us feedback on is somebody that we really highly respect and we meet with regularly. So we look forward to hearing from Trinity and her staff and figuring out how we can tighten things up for y'all. So thank you very much for being here. and all your clothes and shirts and everything perfectly matched, not inside out. You guys did a great job. I was very impressed. I actually think my shirt's inside out. And but all kidding aside, thank you for taking the time to come here. And I know you're representing a much larger population of people that use the transportation that couldn't be here. So we've heard you, and we have a top senior leader over that entire department.
And Commissioner Kowal. One Adam 12 to Commissioner Kowal.
I see him
Can you
here.
hear me now?
There he is.
There we go.
Okay. Sorry. I echo a lot what my fellow commissioners have said, and I know over the past few weeks, I've had some email communications with people from Lighthouse, and I've been looking into, and along with Trinity, who is a superstar in our staff, and that, you know, from listening to some of the speakers, it sounds like maybe some other jurisdictions have a good grasp of, you know, some scheduling or how they're doing it themselves. So sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, I'm proud enough to go and look and see what other people are doing and bring those ideas back to Collier County, because definitely we want to shine and definitely be ahead of and be right up there with anybody else. So I'm glad I got a chance to hear some people today on this subject personally. Thank you.
Commissioners, that brings us to items 2B and 2C. If you'd like to take those together, those are the approval of the meeting minutes from
Make
May.
a motion to approve the minutes, 2B and 2C.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioners, that brings us to our first of our time certain items. This is item 10A. This is a resolution naming the helipad located at the Collier County Sheriff's Office District 8 substation in Immokalee, the Larry H. Ray, LTC, Lieutenant Commander, retired U.S. Army helipad. And this is brought to the agenda by Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes. Good morning. Larry, you want to come to the podium while I read your resolution? And you don't know? This, if I may, I'd like to read the resolution, sir. You know, Larry and I have been friends a long time. This whole adventure came about, and I'll ramble on a little bit because we're in the process of getting our friends out who take a lot of time to get to wherever they're going, let alone anything. But I've known Larry a long time. He served as our tax collector, and I'm going to read this resolution and talk about everything else that Larry did back in the day. But one of Larry's friends approached me and suggested that we name a helicopter pad after Larry. And Larry thought the guy was messing with him. It was one of his golfing buddies, and Larry thought the guy was just messing with him. And then, and really kind of shunned it, didn't really want to mess with it. And then I happenstantially bumped into Larry at an event, and I said, "Hey, how come you're not so happy about the helicopter pad naming? Were you serious about that?" So here we are today. So here you go, my friend. If you'll indulge, I'll try not to mess this up too awful much. Lieutenant Colonel Larry H. Ray served in the United States Army between 1965 and 1987, graduating from both fixed and rotary wing flight schools and serving 2 tours of duty as a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. His specialties included field artillery and aviation, and he was awarded several medals and honors, including the Bronze Star Medal, the Distinguished Flying Cross, and the Legion of Merit Award. Sometimes naming a helicopter pad after somebody just isn't enough. In 1991, Larry and his wife Pam moved to Naples, where he worked on the support staff for Naples Community Hospital. He joined the management team at the hospital in 1995 as Vice President of Facilities and Construction. In this role, he managed the expansion of several services, including construction of the Schick Heart Center, the Luggert Cancer Center, and the Whitaker Wellness Center, and the expansion of the North Collier Hospital from 50 beds to 300. In 2007, he joined the staff of Collier County Tax Collector as a compliance officer, elected the 6th tax collector in Collier County history in November of 2008. Larry was responsible for the collection and distribution of all property taxes and tourist development taxes in Collier County. Additionally, as tax collector, he oversaw both Department of Motor Vehicles and driver's license operations in the county. Larry retired in 2021 after serving 3 terms. Larry Ray has always actively supported the Collier County community, having served on the boards of the Junior Achievement of Southwest Florida and the Health Planning Council of South Florida. He has been a member of the Collier County's Privatization Committee and Transportation Citizens Advisory Committee. He is a graduate of Leadership Collier, the Leadership Institute Executive Management Program at Hodges University, and is a past president of the Naples North Rotary Club. Naming the helicopter pad at the Collier Sheriff's District 8 substation, that's over in Immokalee, by the way, for people who aren't aware, is a small token of our appreciation to a decorated pilot who has dedicated his life to serving his country and his community. The Sheriff's District 8 substation also happens to be located in Immokalee Government Center across from Immokalee Branch, and we're going to put plaque up there as well, just so you know, Larry, so it'll be memorialized. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Board of County Commissioners in Collier County, Florida, in honor of Larry H. Ray's service to his country and to Collier County, to name the helipad located at the Collier County Sheriff's District substation in Immokalee, the Larry H. Ray, LTC, retired U.S. Army helipad, and to direct staff to install the appropriate signage. So forth then be resolved on this day. Well, I set this up back in April and nobody fixed the date, so we're going to do it as of today.
Okay.
And yes. I want to say thank you.
Well, I want to thank the commission and especially Commissioner McDaniels for this honor. Certainly an honor, unexpected honor, but I'm proud of my service. I was proud serving the citizens of the United States in those years in hostile action, and I certainly was proud to serve the citizens of Collier County as the tax collector and the DMV guy. The hunting and fishing license. So, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to be down here. I hadn't been down here in a while. Spend a lot more time on the golf course now. Had to dig this out of the...
And dust the mothballs off.
Yeah, mothballs. But thanks a lot, commissioners. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Larry.
it.
Rob, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, no.
No, yes. I think, Larry, were you hired by Guy?
I was.
Guy Carlton? Yeah.
For the record, Rob Stormwater, Collier County Tax Collector, the 7th tax collector in Collier County history. I don't have a lot to say other than when we told Larry all those things and the accomplishments that he did, he said, if you find that guy, he says, I want to meet him. He sounds like he's a pretty cool dude. So, so that's all I have to say.
We're going to do a photo op?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, Colonel Ray, we're going to get this legitimized with real signatures and a real date, and then we'll forward it.
It's going to look somewhat like this?
It's going to look just like that, all pretty, but signed and executed.
I appreciate it.
And make you legit.
Okay. I only suck it in so long, so.
Yes.
Come on back. Oh, yeah.
We got to get some pretties in that picture.
Please.
Everybody's going to the
thorns
right.
between roses.
There you go. All right.
Thank you again, Mr. Ray.
Swing smooth and hit it sweet. Good.
Security might want to check this gray-haired guy over just for water here.
Okay. That fella? Okay. I really want to thank the board for indulging in that. You know, there's a lot of folks that are unsung heroes that just kind of go along, and my friend Larry's certainly one of those.
You're welcome. Ms. Patterson.
Commissioners, that brings us to our 9:30 time certain. That is item 10B, which is a recommendation to adopt the attached resolution in opposition to Amendment 4, titled as Amendment to Limit Government Interference with Abortion, which, if enacted, would amend the Florida Constitution to greatly enhance abortions in Florida. This item is brought to the agenda at Commissioner Hall's request.
Thank you. Yes, I did. I brought this forward to pass it because as this Amendment 4 comes to the ballot, it's not just the content that I'm concerned about. It's more the process. The voters are going to vote on this in November, and I want to make sure that they understand fully what they're voting on. And because of the content, because of the process, we want to keep the powers to the state legislatures that represent us. And so that's why I brought this forward. Troy, how many public speakers we got?
We have 17 registered public speakers for this item.
Okay.
All right, we'll begin here in the room with Keith Flaw, and these speakers have put themselves in an order, and we'd like to go to Dr. John Littell on Zoom next. Keith has been seated 3 additional minutes from Ryan Kennedy. Ryan, are you? Oh, there he is over there. So Keith will have a total of 6 minutes, and I know, Amy, at some point Ryan's going to have some things he wants to put on the overhead for this. Keith, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm going to try to be brief and not use all 6 minutes. Florida Citizens Alliance is proud to stand for parental rights and protecting Florida's children. We urge the Collier Board of County Commission to pass this unanimously. On the 20th, in 2024 general election ballot this November, voters will have an opportunity and be presented with this very deceptive ballot measure that would enshrine abortion access up until the point of birth in the Florida Constitution. Don't be deceived. This amendment will do all of the following, if passed. It will allow access to abortion for all women up until the point of birth. It will allow individuals other than doctors to perform those abortions or grant access to abortions up until birth. It will remove parental consent for minors from the law. And it will remove any ability for the state to regulate safe medical standards in regards to abortion. I'd like to put on the agenda the actual language that's for those that can see it online. The highlighting on this is my highlighting, so the important point is starting out with the first underline, no law. What this means is all current laws will be removed from the books that affect abortion, and no new laws from the legislature will be allowed under the Constitution. It goes on to say, shall prohibit, paralyze, delay, or restrict abortion before viability. Viability is not defined. Therefore, given today's medical environment, that's right up until the time of birth. One of the more important words in this thing is the next word, or, when necessary to protect the patient's health. Patient's health is not defined. It can be your emotional health, your physical health, or your financial health, as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. Again, not defined. So this literally means, in the third chart that I'm going to ask Ryan to put up, this chart is what's currently in law for medical practitioners in Florida. This law does go away, but as you can see, your massage therapist, your physical therapist, your eye doctor can actually perform or support the performance of an abortion without any medical procedure. So Collier citizens and all Floridians need to know the truth about this defective amendment. With this deceptive language, it would enshrine in our Constitution allowing for unsafe, unrestricted, unregulated abortion on demand up until the time of birth for all women And equally important, it will remove consent for minors, which are currently in law. And it no longer would require an abortion to be performed by a medical doctor. So I thank Commissioner Hall for bringing us forward, and we look forward to all of you voting for life, not only for the unborn, but for the moms involved, because abortions without medical regulation puts their life at risk too. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Dr. John Littell on Zoom, and Dr. Littell will be followed by Christina Heuser. Dr. Littell, you're being prompted to unmute yourself. I see you've done that. Sir, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. It's an honor to be able to speak to you. I want to thank the commissioners for considering really what's going on throughout the country. I want to let you know I've been in practice for 35 years. I'm the medical director of 5 women pregnancy centers around the state of Florida. I have the opportunity to review many, many ultrasounds. I also, one of the areas I'm involved with women is preventing miscarriages and helping women with infertility. So each day, practically in my office, I have the joy of having women hear the heartbeat of their babies, at various stages of gestation, women who've been trying so hard not to have another miscarriage. And I'm not sure if you're all aware, but 62% of the abortions in the state of Florida were do-it-yourself miscarriages last year. 62% of the abortions, and we had a record high number. I won't know the number off the top of my head, but it's incredible that this is what's happening to healthcare. These women, as you just heard, their lives are in danger. They're going home and bleeding, hemorrhaging at various stages of gestation. And I can tell you this legislation, this ballot initiative was actually nixed. It was voted down by the 3 female justices of the Florida Supreme Court. All 3 women said this is deceptive language. And the 4 men, this is our concern, is that many men are going to turn out and vote, thinking that when they see the words limiting government interference on the ballot, we're freedom-loving people, and they're so smart. These Floridians Protecting Freedom, that's the group that put this out there. They think this is about freedom. Of course, it's not freeing for the woman or for the baby, but when you see limiting government interference, you and I, we all know that a lot of folks are going to hit the yes button on that Amendment 4, when in fact, everything you just heard is absolutely true and frightening. 9 months of gestation, no parental consent they say parental notification, that's after the fact. No parental consent for minors. And yes, providers, not doctors, overseeing this really evil process, in my opinion. So I just want to congratulate Collier County for really being the first county that I know of in the state of Florida willing to even entertain a resolution like this. You can bet your bottom dollar I'll be bringing it here to Marion County and down to Sumter County if you guys have the courage to say to your citizens that this is hurting women and unborn children in a way that even I've got doctors who never were pro-life, OBGYNs, friends of mine who never took a stand. They're saying this is out of control. What they are seeing in their practices in the emergency rooms on call with do-it-yourself miscarriages is, I won't get into all the details, but folks, it is out of control in a way that I, in 35 years, never thought would happen in this country. And Planned Parenthood knows no limits. So I really thank you for considering really the savagery of this ballot initiative and doing whatever you can in your power to encourage your citizens to vote no on Amendment 4. And I also, by the way, I'm the chairman of Do No Harm Florida, which has a website, Do No Harm Florida, just on this very issue. So thank you again. I appreciate the time to speak.
Your next speaker is Christina Heuser. She'll be followed by Pastor Jeff Donaldson.
I just want to remind everyone, this is a highly passionate and emotional subject. And in respect for everyone in the room, whether you're for it or whether you're against it, I'm going to ask you to hold your applause or to hold your other comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall, and thank you for bringing this resolution forward. And thank you, all of you commissioners, for being thoughtful about this measure. It is very important. I agree with both of our prior speakers. The language is very deceptive. Excuse me, and it is important for government to inform the voters about what they will be looking at on the ballot when they make a decision. I don't want to be redundant with what the other speakers who went before me said. So instead, I'd like to use my time to counter what I anticipate some speakers on the other side will say. It's often said, and I anticipate that the messaging that we will hear around Amendment 4 is that this is necessary to protect women's health, freedom, reproductive freedom. And I have to say, as a woman myself, I find that incredibly offensive. it is not empowering to women to urge women or even permit women to kill their own babies in the womb. In fact, the greatest power that we have as women, I believe, is the ability to bring forth human life. It's something that is unique to women, and it's something that should be celebrated and cherished and not attacked. I think it's incredibly perverse to instruct young women that it is empowering to them to kill their own babies, and it makes me very sad. And in fact, because I feel so strongly about this and I'm aware of the deception in the messaging and in what young women seeking help in times of crisis, when they go to Planned Parenthood and they are pressured into having an abortion and told that this will not cause them any harm, that it's just a routine medical procedure, because I'm so committed to countering that, I do volunteer my time as a sidewalk advocate. And we stand on the sidewalk outside of Planned Parenthood and try to talk to women and tell them about the other side, the things that Planned Parenthood doesn't tell them, which is that women who have abortions, they suffer from depression, extreme guilt that they will carry with them for the rest of their lives, and oftentimes commit suicide or at least contemplate suicide because they've made this irreversible decision. And nobody warns them about that. As a young mother myself, I probably fit a lot of the demographics that these women who support abortion will tell you. We are the group that need to have access to abortion. I was young, I was unmarried, I was not gainfully employed yet because I had just graduated from college, but I did not choose abortion. I chose life. And now I'm the proud mother of a 20-year-old daughter who's very successful, about to complete her college degree. She's beautiful, she's faithful to the Lord, and I look forward to the impact that she will have on society in her years ahead. Every human life is valuable, and it's important that we as a society hold up that standard, that government hold up that standard, which is that every human life has inherent value. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Pastor Jeff Donaldson. He'll be followed by Father Michael Orsi.
Good morning. Thank you for considering this important issue. Thank you for the way that you serve our amazing county. My name is Jeff Donaldson. I am senior pastor at Christ Community Naples, located in Commissioner LaCastro's district. And we prayed this morning before we started our meeting that God would give us wisdom about decisions that are made. And then we stood and pledged allegiance to our country, saying, putting our hands over our hearts, recognizing our country is under God. And as a pastor, I'm sure people are surprised to see us speaking about a political issue. But I don't think it's a political issue. I think it's a moral issue. I think it's a biblical issue. Thank you for your consideration to educate the voters in our county about this proposed change to our amendment. I would remind you that the United States Constitution does not grant the right to abortion. But the voters in Florida have the potential to be misled and misguided by the verbiage of this bill to add the right to abortion inside of our state constitution. That's what's at stake here. I appreciate the other speakers who've come before us to educate us and to plead with us about this issue. I greatly appreciate your willingness to listen, to be engaged, and to help our community understand what's at stake here. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Father Michael Orsi. He'll be followed by Scott Kiley.
Good morning. Nice to see all of you again. I'm not here to speak about the evils of abortion. I'm here to speak about the evil of Amendment 4. I'm looking at it not just from a religious point of view. I'm looking at this from a legal point of view and a point of view of common sense. Amendment 4 is an affront to the people of Florida. Because it is poorly crafted, it does not lend itself to an informed voting response. Quite honestly, gentlemen, if a student in law school handed me something like this, I would throw it back at them. You do not belong in law school. And secondly, if you think you're going to be a good lawyer, you have exhibited a lack of integrity by how ambiguous this amendment is. If passed, this amendment would allow for unimagined consequences politically, medically, economically, and morally for years to come. Recall that 3 of the 7 justices on the Supreme Court found the amendment to be ambiguous and confusing. Now, those are 3, I believe, legal scholars. If they find it difficult, what about the average voter? What do they find? What does Amendment 4 call for? How many weeks would be allowed to terminate a pregnancy? Who would make the determination? A child, a parent, a guidance counselor? Who would perform the procedure? And what would be its financial impact on government revenue and on the state budget? You see, I have a political mind too. As to the last question, a Leon County judge said the amendment needs revision. Another judge says it needs revision. She said that it is inaccurate, ambiguous, misleading, unclear, and confusing. In fact, this applies to the whole text. The people of Florida on either side of the abortion issue deserve better than this. How sad when people are asked to vote for an amendment that potentially has extreme implications which they cannot fully comprehend and would not approve of if they did. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Scott Kiley. He'll be followed by Michelle Albergo.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Scott Kiley, and I am a citizen living in Collier County. I'm here today to speak in support of the Collier County resolution urging residents to vote no on Amendment 4. To begin, I'd like to provide some context. Commissioners, Naples was recently voted by U.S. News as the best city to live in America. The actions of this board, working with our constitutional sheriff, along with our citizens, addressing the forces seeking to destroy America, well, the actions that you have taken are precisely what makes Naples the best city in America. I'd like to thank each commissioner for your bravery, for your love of humanity, and for your love of country. Amendment 4 is crafted to deceive. It is designed to make voters believe it provides regulations for abortion after viability. The demonic deception comes from a broad health loophole that would allow abortion to the moment of birth if the healthcare provider, very loosely defined, who may be someone who doesn't even have a medical license, claims it's necessary to protect the patient's health, also very loosely defined. Courts have interpreted this as justifying abortion for virtually any reason. Let's look at the broader picture. We see the radical educational indoctrination of our children. We see the diabolical gender identity ideology forced on the population. We see the global depopulation agenda. We witness record low fertility and birth rates. We see the destruction of the nuclear family and the war on parental rights. In Collier County, we are pushing back. Amendment 4 further shreds the fabric of all that is good about America. It is anti-Christian, it is anti-family, and it is a war on the unborn. In summary, Florida Amendment 4 is a proposed amendment to the Florida Constitution that will be on the November 5th, 2024 ballot. Amendment 4 is abortion on demand by anyone for any reason up to the moment of birth. We must reject Amendment 4. I stand firmly in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Michelle Albergo. She'll be followed by Janet Hoffman.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Michelle Albergo, and I'm here to represent the Christian Family Coalition of Florida. Thank you for placing this important resolution on today's agenda. Planned Parenthood and several Soros-backed groups have succeeded in placing an extreme pro-abortion amendment on Florida's ballot. Amendment 4 would dramatically expand the killing of unborn babies in the state of Florida up to the 9th month of pregnancy. The wording of Amendment 4 is intentionally deceptive in that it is designed to make voters believe it allows regulation of abortion after viability, in quotes, but includes a broad health, also in quotes, loophole that would allow abortion to the moment of birth if the healthcare provider, who can be pretty much anybody, claims it's necessary to protect the patient's health, which courts have interpreted as justifying abortion for virtually any reason, including morning sickness, anxiety, financial stress. Amendment 4 would repeal Florida's Heartbeat Protection Act, which includes exceptions for rape and incest. It's going to rescind the 24-hour waiting period and sonogram requirement, eliminate parental consent for minors seeking an abortion while deceptively allowing parental notification, and do away with clinical safety regulations for women by abolishing the legislature's power to regulate the abortion industry in virtually any way whatsoever. The Declaration of Independence declares it to be a self-evident truth that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, beginning with the right to life. Abortion violently ends the life of an unborn child and should not be enshrined in the Florida Constitution. Last month, Gilchrist County Commission became the first in the state to pass a resolution denouncing Amendment 4, and we're asking you to please join them today by condemning this horrible amendment. Thank you so much.
Your next speaker is Janet Hoffman. She'll be followed by Katie Tardif.
My name is Janet Hoffman. Thank you very much. I'm concerned about the sanctity of a woman's life. Even with a health and life exception, physicians have been unable to provide evidence-based medical care for women who need it. Being unable to get this needed care until very close to death has meant the loss of fertility, severe organ damage, and at times death for the pregnant woman. The abortion ban is harming women who want to have a baby, but the pregnancy is not viable. There are many ways that can risk the woman's life and create severe consequences if it's not dealt with. Hydrocephalus, sepsis are some of those, and they are life-threatening, and they can damage a woman's organs. Opposing Amendment 4, to me, is not honoring the lives of women. It is making life very risky for pregnant women, and it is not viewing their lives as sacred. Amendment 4 includes Article 10, which allows parents to give, they must give permission for minors. This amendment also does not allow abortions once viability has been reached. Viability can vary, but it's generally around 24 weeks. To say that this abortion would allow the unborn to be taken right up to the moment of birth is not true. Abortions are never performed right up to birth. It is illegal to do so in this country. Women's lives are at stake. Women need to make the decisions for their own lives. This is not a government role to make medical decisions, especially ones that harm the lives of women. I stand here because my faith is calling me to speak out, and I believe that denying health care to women that threatens their life with a fetus that's not going to survive anyway does not make sense. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Katie Tardif. She's been seated additional time from Caitlin Telgren. Are you here, Caitlin? I see she's back there. She'll have 6 minutes, and will be followed by Greg Foley.
This will be music to your ears, but I threw out what I wrote. This will not be music to your ears. I threw out what I wrote because I am so moved that I'm going to just speak from the heart. But I want to begin with reminding you of what you've heard more than one time today. The language of the amendment is not vague, it's not unclear, it's actually quite deliberate because it's reflective of medical uncertainties that can require one decision for this circumstance, but a different one for this circumstance because different variables came into play. What's certain is that it does not allow for aborting a fetus past the time of viability. And to my thinking, there's a good argument there too, but I'm not going there today. We're talking about pre-viability. So that's one thing to make sure we are very clear on. The frequent references to the birthing process and how these women are cared for and the fake clinics, more fake clinics than there are real medical services providers for pregnant people. One of my favorite posters when I'm protesting is forced births are unfunded mandates. My mother stood in line for the cheese. She stood in line for the week-old bread. She slaved to keep her children clean and dressed and going to school, her first 4, and then came the next 2. And I'll share something personal. We lived with a very abusive stepfather, and my father was a drunk who never showed up. So my mother raised us, and she didn't have the option of abortion. Who knows if she would or wouldn't have, but we did grow up with a stepfather who molested his stepchildren and who molested other people's children. My sister was raped by the chief of police of our town. My mother was raped in a gravel pit by a group of boys. She was a young woman in high school and didn't know a lot. They should have had the opportunity to abort children they couldn't afford. And to that point, I want to remind everyone that it's incredibly perverse that people who will look the other way when many of those who did have unwanted births, with the assurances that there are medical facilities right around the corner that can take care of you. We all know that more than half of those are BS, medical providing services. They lure people in. Those more than half give fake medical tests, and they falsely report findings of bona fide or fake tests. They're assured that their babies will be fed. The children that they're raising will have clothes. They will find houses. They will find housing. And yet, those mothers, especially the single ones, but also the ones with 2 parents, struggle to survive feeding, clothing, housing, getting them to doctors, getting them to expensive medical procedures that they can't afford. And they knew those things before they were convinced to have the child, because there was this marvelous mattress of support there and waiting. Well, you all know that is not true. You know it. They will always be unfounded, unfunded mandates. And by the way, the people who have trouble with vision, who were here earlier today, described a system that for many of those mothers is the only transportation they have to and from their jobs. Who's going to take care of the kids when the bus doesn't show up? Who's going to take care of their kids when they can't be there because of the kinds of what do you call it? The programs, the timing of the pickups, the number of pickups at any one of those housing arenas where these people live. Imagine that. You would force births, but not take care of the product of those births. What is wrong? Isn't it obvious? But we're never going to do it, and you all know that. We are never going to do that. We're never going to provide adequate, affordable, decent transportation, accessible housing. We are never going to provide for their full medical needs. We're never going to provide for the feeding of them. We insist they be born, and we set them free.
All right, thank you, Kate.
Your next speaker is Greg Foley. He'll be followed by Diane Van Paris.
Good morning, and thank you, Commissioner Hall, and all the commissioners for dealing with this issue. I think it's very, very important. And I'm a city councilor on Marco Island, resident of Marco Island. I hope we deal with this as well, and I think we'll have an opportunity to do so. A couple of points. I think it's possible to have reasonable debate on abortion. You can, however, only have that reasonable debate if you recognize that there's not one life involved, but two. And then you can decide whether and how we should regulate it, 6 weeks, 15 weeks, something different. It's subject to debate. They've had a debate in France recently, moved it, I think, from 12 to 14 weeks, but still much more conservative than this radical proposal, which eliminates debate and basically just enshrines abortion as a right, with only one life of those two involved being considered. I applaud you for making this known to the public and the problems, enormous problems with this amendment, because tens of millions of dollars are going to be spent promoting it. And that's going to be, the funds to oppose it are going to be dwarfed by comparison. And so it's very important for leaders like yourselves to call this out and make your views known. I applaud you for it. I thank you for it. And I hope many others emulate it as well. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Diane Van Paris. I hope I'm saying that close to right, Diane. And she'll be followed by Jane Schlechtwig.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall, for bringing this forward and for all of the commissioners. I want to speak to this issue on a different format. The first is that the amendment process, in order to get an amendment on the ballot, we had to have 900,000 petitions signed, of which the organization promoting this, Floridians Protecting Freedom, did get over 900,000 petitions signed. That was over $18 million in paying petitioners to get the amendment petitions to the Florida Supreme Court. It was then fought in the Florida Supreme Court by our Attorney General, as well as many others, on both sides. The decision, it was fought on December 8th, and then the decision was made on April 1st. On April 1st, there were key decisions made in this issue. The first was that the 15-week ban from 2022 legislation on abortion was held up, and that went into effect on April 1st. Following that would be the 23 legislation for a 6-week ban on abortion that went into effect 30 days later on May 1st. At the same time, the Supreme Court ruled on April 1st, Florida Supreme Court ruled that Amendment 4 would go on the ballot. The language was discussed. The word viability is not defined. In the discussion on December 8th, viability was given as 21 to 24 weeks, as a previous speaker mentioned. However, viability does mean up until in the birth canal. What I want to tell you now is $11.8 million has been raised in 2 months from April 1st to May 31st to promote this bill, to promote this amendment. Amendment 4 takes away the heartbeat protection bill. That was made on April 1st. Heartbeat protection is enshrined in our law, and this will take away every single piece of that. I can't seem to find it. Takes away parental consent, takes away the ability for sex trafficking to handle that. Sex trafficking, suspected sex slaves can receive an abortion, but it must be reported to authorities. We are protecting all kinds of other things in the heartbeat bill, and I applaud you for approving this, and I wish you do. Thank you.
Before we go to Jane Schleckweg, I have a second slip from Michael Orsi. Is there a second Michael Orsi here that's not Father Orsi? Or? Okay, I just wanted to check and make sure. Jane Schleckweg is next, and she'll be followed on Zoom by Deborah Cruz.
There's not two Father Orsis.
I didn't think so, sir.
He must be here in spirit.
They had different phone numbers on them, so I didn't want to take any chances. Jane is next, and she'll be followed on Zoom by Deborah Cruz.
Good morning, Board of Collier County Commissioners. My name is Jane Schletweg. I am a resident of Collier County, and I'm here to ask you to please deny this resolution. Amendment 4 seeks to provide or protect abortion rights up to the point of viability. That is not birth, as some people here would lead you to believe. It's up to the point of viability. And that is dependent on the situation, not on a government understanding of it, but on the decision made by the doctor and the patient. The Florida Supreme Court allowed the wording of this amendment to stand, and it decided that the wording was clear. I also believe it's crucial to highlight the several key points that support this amendment and align with the values previously expressed by this very board. I would like to remind the board of the ordinance passed in 2023, which explicitly states that the board would oppose any legislation that infringes upon the rights of Collier County citizens and their health. Amendment 4 is fundamentally about protecting the health and rights of women. By ensuring the right to choose up to the point of viability, this amendment supports a woman's health and autonomy, which aligns with the principles set forth in your 2023 ordinance. It's also important to consider that the diverse beliefs and values of all residents in Collier County. While religious beliefs are deeply personal and significant to many, it is crucial that our laws reflect the separation of church and state, ensuring that personal religious convictions do not infringe upon the rights and freedom of others. Amendment 4 is about safeguarding our constitutional rights and makes private medical decisions without undue government interference. Amendment 4 does not promote abortion. It does give the choice to people to make their own decision without government interference. Some of you agreed in April of 2023 in your ordinance to protect individual liberties. I urge you to consider voting or not approving this resolution. And I think that you will be affirming what you said in 2023, that people have the right to make their own personal health care decisions. Thank you.
Your next speaker, well, actually, our final two speakers are both on Zoom. Next is Deborah Cruz, and she will be followed by Ray Nord. Deborah, you're being prompted to unmute yourself if you'll do so at this time. There you are, Deborah. Deborah, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Government has no role to play in my or any woman's healthcare decisions. Neither you men nor anyone else besides me and my doctor should be involved in any of my healthcare decisions. Reproductive healthcare is healthcare, period. Women have the right and the responsibility to govern their own bodies. You do not have that right. Amendment 4 is perfectly clear as it's stated. It's not deceptive in the least. It's not pro-abortion. It is pro, let me and my doctor make my own healthcare decisions. It says nothing about allowing abortion up until birth. That statement is what is misleading and deceptive. The amendment would not change the state legislator's authority to require the parents of a minor to be notified if their child is seeking an abortion. We in America believe in freedom of religion and even freedom to have no religion. Do not try to push your personal religious beliefs and values on me and other people that you're supposed to serve. I always thought Republicans wanted less government, not more government. This resolution is clearly promoting more government. More government right in my womb. No, thank you. Please do not support this resolution.
Your final registered speaker also on Zoom is Ray Nord. Ray, you should be prompted to unmute yourself if you'll do so at this time. I see you there, Ray. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time to speak. I do not appreciate Commissioner Hall's outrageous last-minute proposal. It is designed to sow divisiveness in our county, and we don't need more divisiveness. This amendment has been in process for more than a year. 1.5 million signatures, as best I know, were raised in support of this. And it has followed the proper procedures to get an amendment on the ballot in November. The language, as has been said, the language was challenged by the Attorney General of the state of Florida, and that challenge was heard by the Supreme Court of Florida, and they approved the language as being readily understood. Your job is not to send to opine on statewide ballot. This issue is a Florida-wide issue, and the voters of Florida are being asked to approve or disapprove of it, and we should let that process go. Commissioner Hall's attempt to introduce this now, when many of us have left for the summer vacations and what have you, is another attempt to insert his religious beliefs into the duty of the Collier County Commission. And he has yet, by the way, petitioned them earlier to include women's reproductive health in his so-called health freedom bill. He has refused steadfastly to even consider it. I urge you to vote no on this proposition. It's divisive, as I've said, and it is not appropriate for the Collier County Commission to deal with. More appropriate for you is to deal with the issues such as the one we heard this morning about proper transportation for those citizens who are not able to afford them or accord themselves the transportation to their daily lives. More to that and less to this ballot initiative. Vote no. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that was our final registered speaker on this item.
Commissioner LaCastro.
I wasn't trying to be the first speaker. I just wanted to make sure I was lit up. I don't know if you wanted to start or if you want to. Many people have sent us a note. First of all, I respect the views of everybody who came today, both sides. But, you know, we have our views as well. Many people have said this isn't our place to bring this to the agenda. But I disagree, because I'm asked all the time about my moral compass. I'm asked about how I feel about gun rights, which we will never vote on in the county, but people want to know, you know, my moral compass and my thoughts on that. Gun laws, gun control, immigration, abortion, and all kinds of other things. And I'm happy to give those views, and I remind people that I'm not passing any bills that are going to change those laws at the county level. But if you want to know the depth of your elected officials and not only their resumes and their experience and their qualifications, but their moral compass, I think when you go to the polls, you better know all those things and not just vote for people alphabetically. This resolution doesn't change any laws or make any medical decisions. It merely puts us on record as to our views and our moral compass on, and reminding everybody that we may, I'll just speak for me. I personally do feel that many times things that are at the polls to vote on are very ambiguous and very confusing. Something that's a 500-page document comes down to 3 lines, and somebody reads it very quickly after they vote for the president they want, and then they're like, wow, I don't know the names of any of these judges. County appraiser, who's that? What does that person do? Clerk of courts, right? Crystal's always trying to educate people. They're like, what does she do? And so I think what we're trying to just state with this resolution is to remind people to do their homework when they go to the polls and make sure you know what you're voting on. I'm not pushing anything. I'm not telling somebody what to vote, how to vote. Vote your conscience. I've been pro-life, my entire life. I've been honored to speak multiple times at MC Action for Life events, and I'm proud of that. I don't let it steer my decisions and other things that are part of my responsibility, but it's part of my moral compass, and I'm very consistent in my moral compass. So I support this strongly as a reminder to my constituents of my moral compass and how I feel. Go to the polls, do your homework, and if you feel that you feel differently than I do, you're going to have a chance to vote on something, but make sure that you've read all the fine print. I guess what I didn't hear anybody say in this room, not one person said the word adoption. When I was in the military, people would fly all over the world and pay $100,000 to find a baby in China because they couldn't adopt here in the United States because it was a complicated process or they had to wait for 2 years. I won't call anybody out, but probably the most disturbing thing I heard, in my opinion, and I say this with respect for the person, but not for the comment, quote, "You should be able to abort the babies you can't afford." I totally disagree with that. You should be able to put those babies up for adoption so that a family who could afford to buy expensive cheese and be able to send them to good schools and who have been waiting for years to have a baby in their arms that they're going to care for. And like one speaker said, her 20-year-old daughter is going to grow up or has already grown up to be an amazing person of society. I know adopted people here in this community that are pillars of society. So, saying that you want to make the choice early because, you don't have the means for 20 years to pay the food bill, that's why there's adoption options. That's just how I feel. So I'm not here telling people how to vote, but I know my constituents ask me about my moral compass all the time, and I'm taking a stand here today because this is on the agenda, and a lot of times people say it has no business being on the agenda. Things get on the agenda because citizens bring them to us, or a commissioner feels very strongly about something because they're talking to their constituents. But if it's on the agenda, I'm going to take a stand and give my views. And I am a strong supporter of this resolution to just remind people to look at the verbiage, that it oftentimes can be very deceptive and misleading, and a lot of legal folks at much higher levels than county commission have, and a lot smarter than me, have reiterated the same thing, that they have some concerns. And so that's all this commissioner is saying here today, is that I strongly support this, and women's right to choose. My strong suggestion to them would be choose adoption, because there's a lot of families out there that do have the financial means to take care of a child, and we've heard from some of those people in this audience, and that's the view that I strongly support, and that's the direction my moral compass and my parents and my upbringing have pointed me towards, and I want my constituents to know that. And if you disagree with me, then go to the polls, vote your conscience, and feel good about your vote, because I will be doing the same. Thank you.
Mr. Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the speakers, both pro and con, on this resolution. Obviously, this is a very passionate issue and one that everyone is taking very seriously. So I just want to thank everybody for that. I want to thank Commissioner Hall for bringing this forward. I remember back a long, long time ago, I was in the Senate when we voted on parental consent. And that was a very controversial issue back then, but one that we passed by very large margins in the Florida Senate and Florida House of Representatives. And it is troubling that this legislation now changes that from consent to notification. And there's a big difference, obviously, between notification and consent. And back in those days, you had parents coming to committee hearings pleading with the legislature to adopt a consent law because they had their 15, 16-year-old kids that were having had abortions, and they had no notice of it. And that was a very controversial, very sensitive issue, but we did the right thing, and we required parental consent back in those days. I've looked at some of the polling. Amendment 4 is polling now at over 60%. It's likely that it could pass. I don't think there's anyone in this room doubts that when you look at the polling numbers. And there will be a lot of money spent in support of Amendment 4. And I think this resolution is the appropriate thing. Just we're stating our belief that the amendment is confusing, that it's overbroad, and shouldn't be part of the Constitution in the first place, that it's the Florida legislature that should be setting what the rules are dealing with abortion. And so I support the amendment. I support Commissioner Hall on this. I will point out, Commissioner LaCastro mentioned adoption, and I was in the legislature when we started doing this, where we created safe places for women who had given birth that didn't want their child for whatever reason, whether it was financial or emotional, whatever the reason was. There are safe places where babies can be literally dropped off, and the state will find a home for them. And so even if adoption maybe isn't on someone's mind, there are other options for dealing with unwanted pregnancy. So I support Commissioner Hall in this effort.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, originally when this resolution came forward, I was conflicted. I actually felt that it really wasn't the place of the board to be taking a stance on something like this. And I agree largely with Commissioner LaCastro's statements with regard to the individual need to edify yourself with all of the amendments and everything that you in fact vote on. Don't just go there and vote alphabetically. And the point that I want to make is it's a slippery slope when you start legislating a woman's choice. We end up in parables that have untold consequences, sometimes lifelong consequences. And so my simple statement is choose life at every opportunity that's physically possible. Choose life.
Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'd like to just say I echo what Commissioner Castro was saying. You know, I can't count the number of times that from both sides of the aisle that I was asked, even at in my level of my campaign when I was running, that, you know, those questions: am I pro-choice? Am I pro-life? You know, you hear some people that was either at the podium and saying that, you know, it's not, you know, our place, but at the same time we're asked of our beliefs, and we're gauged on that when we're running for office, even at this level. And my answer has always been the same: I've been pro-life. And, you know, but we are asked of that. And that's where, you know, people are trying to gauge our moral compass, you know, if they can support us or not support us, so we have the same beliefs or not beliefs they do. And I think, you know, when I first heard about this, I didn't know a whole lot about the Amendment 4 until we started looking into it. And then when I heard about the AG and how strong they were fighting against this language, and it ended up in front of the Supreme Court, and you know, to find out that amazingly, the 3 women on the Supreme Court were also just as confused, that, you know, that they didn't feel that this language was up to par to become an amendment on our state constitution, because once it's an amendment on the state constitution, it pretty much takes our legislators out of it. You know, it sets the rules at that point. And if it's that vague, and then at the same time, the AG, if somebody violates that amendment in the Constitution, the AG is the one that has to either prosecute or defend it. And if they don't understand it, how are they supposed to do their job? So I think this is more of an educational thing, and that's why I support this resolution, because I think, you know, everybody always says the educated voter is the best voter. And I think there are some manipulative people out there that know how to manipulate our uneducated voters, or maybe just not so much uneducated, but the ones that just, vote with the first, I guess, the first read of something and don't really look into it. And I think by this resolution and myself sitting up here and voting on it to support it is basically saying to my constituents, do your homework. Please look into this and please see that, that there are some people that know a lot more than we do when it comes down to this language, and especially language that's going to be in our Constitution, that they have trouble with it. And they're the ones that are going to have to defend it or fight for it or against it in the future. And if they don't even understand it or can't, see the clarity of it, how are they supposed to do it? So, I mean, that's why I believe this resolution is about educating and giving everybody the idea that, this is how we feel about it. Do your homework before you just go and vote yes on this in November. So, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. I simply brought this forward because I believe that this Amendment 4 it's vague, it's deceptive, and it's overbroad at best. And there's already a legislative process that's in place through our Florida legislators and that protects life already. And that's the process that I feel that we need to move and keep holy as representatives of the people. And so, and agreeing with all of my colleagues to educate the voters, you can vote however you want to, but I want you to be fully educated on what you're voting on. And I don't want it to be deceptive. I don't want you to look at limit government control thinking that's awesome, and then it say for abortion and get the results that we've gotten. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to join ourselves in solidarity and approve this resolution that says vote no on Amendment 4.
Second.
So we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Yeah. Okay, thank you. It's 11 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock. We'll take a court reporter break and let's come back at 11:15.
I'm gonna break for 5:50. Okay.
They're awesome. Yeah.
Chair, you have a live mic.
All right, County Manager, what does that bring us to?
Commissioners, that brings us to proclamations. There's been a change of plans on this proclamation. It will be mailed. The doctor had to leave. 4A is a proclamation designating June 11th, 2024 as Florida Cancer Specialists and Research Institute Appreciation Day in Collier County. It was going to be accepted by representatives from the Cancer Specialists and Research Institute. However, the proclamation will now be mailed to them. So if we could get a motion to approve this proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
The gavel's
Aye.
been.
Excuse me, people. We're back in business. I'll repeat. Motion's been made and second to approve the proclamation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Commissioners, I'm going to flip the order if it's okay with you. We're to item 5, presentations. Let's go ahead and take 5B, which is a presentation of the business of the month, and then we'll talk about the artist of the month. So 5B is a presentation of the Collier County Business of the Quarter for June 2024 to Harry Chapin Food Bank. The award will be accepted by Richard LeBeur, President and CEO. Thank you and congratulations.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. Wow, that's awesome.
Legit.
Thanks for all you do.
It's
legit. That's a real deal.
Legit.
You know?
Doesn't get any better than this.
We're gonna need that back though. It's just for the photo. No, I'm just kidding.
Hang on.
More than 3.
Speech.
So, good morning. My name is Richard LeBeur. I'm President and CEO of the Harry Chapin Food Bank, a position I've been privileged to hold for over 8 years. On behalf of the Harry Chapin Food Bank, I want to thank the commissioners and the Greater Naples Chamber of Commerce for this award. We're deeply honored to be recognized. Harry Chapin Food Bank is the largest hunger relief organization in Southwest Florida. We've been serving Collier County for over 30 years. We distributed 10.6 million meals in Collier County in the last year. Despite the wealth of Collier County, there is plenty of hunger here. Over 32,000 Collier County residents will experience hunger this year. Their circumstances vary. Some are older citizens, typically on fixed incomes, and often with significant medical issues or disabilities. Many are working families, often with children. They live in many communities across the county. We provide free food to them in a variety of ways. We give food to 35 other organizations in Collier County, free of charge, to help us distribute them throughout their communities. And those organizations include St. Matthew's House, Meals of Hope, Catholic Charities, the Salvation Army, and many churches. In addition, we operate 12 pantries inside Collier County schools and 16 mobile distributions at locations across Collier County every month. Hunger is fundamentally a household financial issue. It's hard enough to afford to live here if you're teaching school or working as a nurse or a police officer or waiting tables in a restaurant. If something bad happens, maybe your landlord raises your rent or you get sick or you lose your job, it becomes impossible. And that's when people come to us for food. We hear frequently from the people that we serve that one of the biggest issues they struggle with is the scarcity of and the cost of housing. I know the Board of Commissioners has discussed ways to provide more workforce housing and has already taken some action. I commend you for that, but I encourage you to continue to focus on it. Respectfully, much more action is needed. There are many who help us accomplish our mission. In addition to the commissioners and the chamber, we're grateful to them all. We thank Collier County Schools for supporting our school pantries and the 35 other organizations that help us distribute food where it's needed. I was joined here this morning by Bethany Sawyer of the chamber, members of our staff, and 2 members of our board of directors who are both Collier County residents. I wish they could have stayed to have been recognized also. Thank you to you all.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Commissioners, that brings us back to item 5A, which is our Artist of the Month. This month's display in the chambers was created by the Collier County Museum Division to highlight 8 remarkable women whose contributions helped shape Collier County into the best place to live in America. Women Leaders of Collier County celebrates those who dedicated their lives to bettering their communities, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire future generations. You can direct everybody's attention to the back of the room. With that, that brings us to item 7, which is public comments on general topics not on the current or future agenda.
Mr. Chairman, we have 3 registered speakers on this item. Your first speaker is Chris Shear. He'll be followed by Garrett FX Byrant.
Here comes Chris.
Morning, Chair, Commissioners. Sorry, stepped out of the room there for one moment. Chris Shear, McDowell Housing Partners. And as many of you know, we are affordable and workforce housing developers here, continuing to be very active throughout the county. I want to raise a quick concern on the motion and approval from back in April in regards to the commercial, the prohibition rather, of planned unit developments with Live Local. And we had been working to find some opportunities here. There's a lot of funding at the state level right now, and we've done I think a good job of working collaboratively with the county to engage and produce more attainable housing options. But with that motion, I think there may have been a little bit of an unintended consequence there. I completely understand the rationale that PUDs have already gotten some incentive. The reason they're not going with straight commercial rezoning is they had a PUD. The PUD afforded them probably something that was above and beyond what a straight zoning classification would have otherwise gotten them. So understood that rationale, but what we have found is by limiting the commercial components of PUDs, we are restrained to only sites that have straight commercial zoning, and right now those straight commercial zoning sites are largely on the major commercial corridors. They're largely small sites, 2 to 4 acres. And recall, we are also limited to 25 units per acre. So we are starting to push ourselves into much more expensive sites because only the straight commercial zone sites that are available are on Tamiami, they're on Airport, they're relatively few and far between. So what I wanted to ask today is to kind of reconsider or give staff the direction in regards to commercial PUDs, so CPUDs. CPUDs are often a component of a much larger PUD that was approved, and those CPUDs have the same exact commercial permitted uses as straight commercial zoning. So there really is no difference in terms of the uses that are permitted between a C1, C2, C3, and the CPUDs. This would open up a lot of opportunity for us. It would alleviate us of the constraints of trying to fit a lot into a very small site. We want to be able to make sure we're meeting the other requirements for the green space preserve parking requirements, and it's becoming very challenging here. And just anecdotally, in finishing up, Hillsborough County is very akin to Collier County, a lot of planned unit developments, and they have as permitted that commercial PUDs are allowed to utilize the Live Local incentives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your next speaker is Garrett FX Byrant, and he will be followed by Francis Cook.
For the record, Garrett FX Byron. I'm speaking on behalf of the Golden Gate Farmers Market. I have been representing them since they were accused of being gypsies by a former county commissioner who's no longer a commissioner. He's something else, and we won't go into that. And I'm here specifically to speak for the Krakau's. Those are the father and son team, the Rakau's, not Krakau's. They happen to be Jewish, so that's a Jewish joke. Nobody got it. Maybe Bert. But in any case, I'm here to thank Bert Saunders on their behalf because Bert has helped us for many years when he wasn't even involved with anything. But I can tell you something. we are very happy with all of the work that Bert Saunders has put forward to help the farmers market. We went from just leasing a parking lot in front of the community center, which unfortunately got about a foot of water in it this weekend, but it did go out eventually within a couple hours. And we also have the farmers market in front of the, it's not the library, I always forget. It's the property on 951, which nobody can miss, even when the cars are going 97 miles an hour. It's a great place. And we actually, the farmers market has more restaurant facilities in it than regular users of hats and sweaters and whatever, the whatnot there. But it's amazing to me because in the 15 years I've been involved with these guys, they've got people out there cooking from Guatemala, Honduras. I mean, it's all of South America wants to come to Golden Gate Estates, and they are welcome to come as long as they're legally here and ICE doesn't bother us. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Francis Cook. He'll be followed by Jay Colhagen.
Francis, that is correct. Morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here to talk about identity as Americans and my personal identity as well. I wrote down Francis Cook. I went by Francis before I moved here to Naples, and that's actually my middle name, so it's not like I'm just bizarrely choosing to go by a different name. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is I want to talk about like our identity as a country. What is our identity as Americans? What is it based on? Is it based on popular opinion? Is it based on what the government says? Is it based on what the media says? I'd say that our identity as Americans, at least for me, is based on the foundation of America. What is America about? I look at our founding documents to guide me in telling me what it means to be an American. So, you know, again, what is that belief system based on? The Bill of Rights, it's the Constitution, it's the Declaration of Independence. So I want to take a little bit of time here with public comments, this being the public square, to talk about our identity as Americans and the importance of these documents. All right, so these three documents, the Bill of Rights, we've got freedom of speech, freedom of religion. By the way, the term separation of church and state is not mentioned in the First Amendment anywhere. We've got our right to bear arms. We've got our Fourth Amendment right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. Due process rights from the Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, Seventh and Eighth. Ninth Amendment, which is the right to eat tacos. That's a little inside joke with my daughter. The Ninth Amendment actually says the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained in the Constitution. So, you know, in the Declaration of Independence, it says we have the rights to that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Ninth Amendment protects the word among. So we have the rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, but our rights are unlimited. Our rights come from our Creator, which you guys know. But coming back to our identity as Americans, I believe it's based on our founding documents, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. What's the purpose of the Constitution? Our rights don't come from the Constitution. The purpose of that government or that document is to provide government with their parameters. So the term constitutional rights, I think, is a misnomer. Coming back to identity, though, so I see I've got 30 seconds left to kind of explain why I'm introducing myself as Francis Cook here today. My ancestor, Francis Cook, came over on the Mayflower Compact, came over on the Mayflower, signed the Mayflower Compact, which I find as one of our foundational documents that established the right, or the principle of government by consent, as well as the advancement of the Christian faith. So I just want to spend my last 15 seconds here and say that I'm here to reaffirm my identity in Jesus Christ and the biblical foundations established under the Mayflower Compact. And I'm going to be going by Francis Cook from here on out to tap into my roots and to tap into my identity as an American. Thank you.
Your final speaker under item 7 is Jay Colhagen.
Jay Colhagen for the record. Nice job, Francis.
Lighten up, Francis.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm here today to.
Can we call you Frank for short?
Nah, he's Francis. I'm here today to speak about the Golden Gate and the Eagles Lakes aquatic facilities. Apparently, their slides aren't operating. They're moldy and pretty much shut down. And I got some nieces and nephews in town. That just
Excuse me,
breaks their
Jay.
heart.
Excuse me, Jay. This is on the agenda for just a little bit, so we're going to talk about that. If you want to come back and talk about it when we have the agenda item.
I didn't even know that.
This is for general topics, not on the agenda or future agenda.
You guys got what I said, so you know.
That's why it's
We'll
on the
see-
agenda.
See, we can do that.
That's
Sorry
why
about
I
that.
put it on the agenda. Sorry.
That was our final speaker for item 7.
Commissioners, we do have a series of land use items. Suggestion is that we take the former 17A to 9B first. I believe that one's going to go quickly, and then we will handle 8A and 9A together. So with that, item 17A, now 9B, is a recommendation to approve an ordinance rezoning 4.86 plus minus acre property located at 135 Price Street from the rural agricultural zoning district to the residential single-family 2 zoning district to allow up to 3 single-family dwelling units in Section 4, Township 51 South, Range 26 East, Collier County, Florida. This item did move to the regular agenda at Commissioner LaCastro's request.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say I wasn't trying to lengthen the meeting, but just to put some like subject matters together. So, and also to have Mr. Bosey come to the podium and separate rumor from fact between 9B, 9A. They sound very similar to the average citizen who maybe read this agenda quickly, that we're just dividing parcels and why would we vote one way over another? So I didn't want 9A, or I'm sorry, 17A, which was on the summary agenda, obviously, to look like we buried it somehow when we were voting on some of the other things that sounded similar. And so that's why I thought if we put them all together and we started with Mr. Bosey explaining now what is 9B, and then it might set the table a bit better for 9A was my thought, and the county manager agreed. So thank you.
I'm sorry, yes, all participants need to be sworn in. If you could stand up and raise your right hand for the court reporter.
Mike Bosey, Plan and Zoning Director. The 9B, which was on the summary agenda, was unanimously recommended by the Planning Commission for approval. Just over 4-acre lot on Price Street, zoned agricultural, but it's in the urban residential designation. What that means is our future land use map would expect, if you were seeking a rezone, that you'd be eligible for up to 3 units an acre. What the applicant is requesting is to take the 4+ acres and create 3 individual lots utilizing the residential single-family 2 zoning district regulations. Average density comes out to 1.62 units an acre, well below what they would be entitled to at 3 units an acre. So they're leaving a lot on the table. It's been, like I said, it's been reviewed by staff against the growth management plan and the LDC. Planning Commission heard it in a public hearing, said it, and it was a unanimous recommendation of approval. It's something you would expect within the urbanized area. Going down to just over a unit an acre, relatively benign in terms of impact from a transportation standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint. A arrangement of infrastructure in place to handle the loads that come from taking this one lot and creating 3 individual lots from it. So with that, I'll ask any questions that you may have.
It'll never be a farm again, right? So
No, it would never be a farm. And remember, the majority of our county was at once zoned agricultural, and as rezones have come about, we do have some leftover pockets of agricultural land within our urbanized area. There's, and you'll see 9A, which has a companion at 8A, has a similar type of a situation, but I don't want to confuse the two.
Okay. No, I think you explained it. I just wanted it to go on the record that we're partitioning that lot in pieces that actually are less than what they could be.
Yes.
So
correct.
Thanks.
We have one registered speaker, Dean Brennerman.
Hello, my name is Dean Bremerman, and I live at 149 Price Street. To clarify what that other man said, he's going to divide the lot into 3 lots, but each lot is capable of having a guest house also. So it's more than just 3 units. I've lived in Naples all my life, but I bought property on Price Street 35 years ago. I bought there because of the large lots and the agriculture zoning, which allows my wife to have her horse. Most people do not know what it's like to live on 2.5, yet alone 5-acre lots. It offers more privacy, space for a large vegetable garden, the ability to have animals, allows your children and grandchildren to build forts and camp out, to enjoy the outdoors. Also allows you to build a big garage where you can store stuff and don't have to pay storage fees somewhere else. There are very few places left in Naples that allow this way of living. When you moved there, we were considered out of town. 41 and 951 were 2-lane roads, no shopping centers, no PUDs. Now we're an island of large lots in a sea of urban sprawl. I'm afraid that granting this zoning change that will subdivide Mr. Greeley's lot will set a precedent, and that others in the future will follow. And in doing so, the quality and way of life that this neighborhood allows us to enjoy will be changed forever. I ask you, please consider this, that this does not only affect the Greeleys, but all the longtime residents on Price Street. Thank you for your time.
That was our only registered speaker.
Mr. Bose, do you have a comment, just because I know you've been deep into this with the residents?
And I did. I failed to mention that the Planning Commission did place a restriction upon the number of guest houses. Currently, if you have over 1 acre, you'd be entitled to have a guest house with your lot. But because these lots are still on septic system, the Planning Commission put a condition of approval that there can only be 1 guest house on one of the individual lots. The other 2 would have to wait until the extension of sanitary sewer for those facilities to be for the guest houses to be constructed.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, and this will be my last comment, and then we'll move on to the ones that are a little more complicated. But what's your thought on precedent? And before you answer, what I think we always say up here is we look at every action separately. So just because something was approved on one place doesn't make it a rampant type of rubber stamp. But when you and I spoke, it didn't seem like, and of course the planning board thought the same thing, this wasn't setting some sort of automatic precedent that all these lots are going to be divided automatically now, correct?
No, this wouldn't set precedents. We know each individual petition is evaluated upon its own merits. What I would say is this parcel of land does abut commercial zoning to the east and to the north, so there's some uniqueness about it. But if you were to look at the future land use map, this is the type of action that would be promoted by the GMP, this type of a rezone. But by no means, every individual petition has to stand on its own individual merits based upon the characteristics of the land and the surrounding property that abuts it.
Okay, based on this one being unique and separate, I make a motion that we approve.
Second. Any other discussion? I'm going to say, because the district commissioner is wanting this, that I'm going to support him. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Commissioners, that brings us to our companion items 8A and 9A. Both will require your ex parte disclosure. I will read them both into the record, and then we'll get everyone sworn in. 8A is a recommendation to approve a resolution of the Board of Zoning Appeals of Collier County, Florida, approving a variance from LDC Section 4.0201, Table 2.1, to reduce the required minimum front yards from 50 feet to 34.38 feet on the north side and 43.58 feet on the west side, and to reduce the required minimum side yard from 30 feet to 27.84 feet on the south side for a single-family home on an RSF1 zoned property located at 438 Gordonia on the southeast corner of Gordonia Road and Carica Road, on a portion of Lot 19, Block H, Pine Ridge Extension Subdivision in Section 3, Township 49 South, Range 25 East, Collier County, Florida. This is a companion item to 9A, and 9A is a recommendation to approve an ordinance rezoning 2.16 plus minus acres of property from the rural agricultural zoning district to the residential single-family 1 zoning district to allow up to 2 single-family dwelling units with a maximum density of up to 1 dwelling unit per acre on property located at 438 Gordonia Road on the southeast corner of Gordonia Road and Carica Road, also described as Lot 19, Block H, Pine Ridge Extension Subdivision in Section 3, Township 49 South, Range 25 East, Collier County, Florida. Let's start with ex parte, and then we'll get everyone sworn in.
Commissioner Kowal.
I have emails on both items.
Commissioner Saunders.
I also have emails on both items.
Commissioner McDaniel.
I also have emails on both items.
And Commissioner Locastro.
Same emails. Thank you.
And I have correspondence and emails.
Very good. All participants now need to please stand up, raise your right hand to be sworn in by the court reporter.
Everyone got in, raise his hand.
Mr. Bosey, we're going to start with the applicant. Very good, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Eddie Olivares, the property owner. I am here to petition for the rezoning of 438 Gordonia Road. The proposed rezone aligns with the planned vision for Collier County and integrates seamlessly into the Pine Ridge Estates neighborhood, of which this property is a part of. The current zoning designation is agricultural. The lot is currently non-conforming and the use case is a single-family residence. I am requesting a zoning change to RSF-1 and the use case would remain the same, single-family residence. The ultimate goal of the rezone is to lay the framework to split the lot into 2 parcels, one parcel for the existing single-family residence and another to host a new single-family residence. To put it extremely simply, I am requesting that the parcel go from 1 non-conforming agricultural lot to 2 conforming RSF-1 lots. If there are any questions, please, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you.
Mr. Bosey, do you have anything to add?
Mike Bosey, Planning and Zoning Director. Again, this is an instance where you have agricultural zoning squarely within the heart of the urbanized area. This is a parcel of land that would be eligible for 4 units per acre in terms of from what the density rating system would allow for. This is simply taking that 2 acre parcel, requesting a lot split to create a second parcel to be in line with the single-family environment that's promoted within the Pine Ridge Estates. There is a large track or continuous track of agricultural zoning that sits on the easternmost portion of the Pine Ridge Estates that abuts Goodlet Frank Road. That is zoned agriculture. The majority of those parcels are non-conforming, meaning that they don't meet the minimum lot size. But what I would say is the predominant land use that occupies the majority of those parcels is single-family development. What's being proposed here is consistent with the single-family that's across the street. Was heard by the Planning Commission. The recommendation on the variance was 5-1. I believe the recommendation on the rezone was 5-1 as well. But it was recommended for approval from the Planning Commission. Staff is recommending approval to the Board of County Commissioners and would entertain any questions that you may have.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yeah, so, and that was, my only question had to do with the variance. Is the variance going to cause in advance hardship on a contiguous property owner other than the applicant?
No, the majority of the variances are where they have the two fronts. It's a reduction of the two fronts for 37 feet and then 47 feet. So it won't affect an adjoining property owner. They adjoin the right of way, sort of more or less. So it won't have an encroachment upon an adjoining property owner.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, we have 10 registered speakers for this item. I'd ask the speakers to queue up and use both podiums for expeditious purposes. Your first speaker is Louise Taylor, and she will be followed by Clifford Schneider.
Mr. Miller, you said 10?
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good morning. I'm Louise Taylor, and as the owner of the property at 627 Gordonia Road in Pine Ridge Estates in District Number 2, which has been in my family for more than 50 years, I strongly object to the rezoning and variance applications for the property at 438 Gordonia Road and request they be denied. I urge the Commission to continue its long history of protecting homeowners' property rights as outlined in the Pine Ridge Estates Declaration of Covenants, which date back to 1954 and prevent spot or preferential rezoning. Such rezoning would set a dangerous precedent not only for Pine Ridge Estates, but for all communities in Collier County. I ask for a no vote on this petition. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Clifford Schneider. He'll be followed by Sally Seafried.
I'm Cliff Schneider, resident of the Pine Ridge community since 1972. I'm a founding board of director of the Pine Ridge Civic Association, and I've served on the Pine Ridge Architecture Control Committee for 40 plus years. I'm a professional engineer with both military and civilian service. My personal goal has been trying to preserve the most unique subdivision in Collier County, Pine Ridge. Pine Ridge is the lowest density subdivision in the Collier County coastal area, and this was by design. I only have 3 minutes to request a denial of the zoning change and variance, which could affect our community for eternity. The Collier Development Corporation planned Pine Ridge with specific land uses and is described in our covenants and restrictions. The plat and land uses were approved by Collier County beginning in 1950. Our covenants run with the land. Our covenants do not expire. I repeat, the Pine Ridge covenants do not expire. Pine Ridge is different because the Collier Development Corporation had a vision for a different community covering 2.5 square miles with yet 550 parcels, land parcels. Many people, including your staff and the Planning Commission, don't understand the concept of Pine Ridge. They think because there's land that's zoned agriculture along the way, that was just like a remnant of old agriculture zoning. No, the concept of Pine Ridge is in the public record. The subject parcel is one of approximately 60 lots designated as the agriculture area parcels in our covenants. Said action is in specific conflict with our Pine Ridge community and how it was planned and approved. The applicant requests 4 separate zoning variances in order to divide his land into 2 RSWAMP F1 parcels. Who benefits from the action? One individual does, the applicant, at the detriment of the rest of our community. It's wrong. Please deny the applications, and I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, real quick housekeeping matter. I know Commissioner Kowal can unmute and mute himself. I'm being told we did not hear him cast a vote on 9B. So when we're done with this item, maybe we can address that.
Sure.
And I will remind you, Commissioner Kowal, please make sure you're unmuted. Your next speaker is Sally Seafried. She'll be followed by Robert Kaufman.
Good afternoon. I am Sally Seafried, a resident of Pine Ridge since 1986. I object to the rezoning and variance application for 438 Gordonia Road. The Collier Development Corporation planned Pine Ridge originally as a unique community. It had land use and restrictions and covenants, which really directed and protected the community. And as you know, it's a very unique area. And living there, we started with kids with go-karts and, jumping the road and with Goodlet Road. And, we've kind of grown past that. But previous developers have respected and abided by these covenants. And unfortunately, I feel this applicant wants to change the variance in zoning for, financial reasons. And, I understand that, but other developers have not. I ask that the current zoning be continued to be enforced, and I thank the commission for listening. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Robert Kaufman. He'll be followed by Margot Kaufman. Mr. Kaufman's been seated 3 additional minutes from Jose V. I can't read your writing here. Is it Sartorelli? Sartorelli, sir. So Mr. Kaufman will have 6 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the rain, by the way. We appreciate it this time of year. Before I begin, my name is Robert Kaufman. I've lived in Pine Ridge Estates for over 25 years. I live at 149 Tupelo Road in Pine Ridge. And before I start, I want to give you a little history. I have a copy of the book and page that the Collier family put in place back in the early 50s, even before my time. They set up the zoning, the setbacks, the roads, and they established 3 areas: residential, commercial, and churches. They also had set aside some ag, and that's what we're here talking about today. We haven't had it modified in 70 plus years. One of the things that's part of the county record is that these terms that those were set up, the zoning and the setbacks, had a term of 25 years. That was brought up at the planning board meeting. They thought that that was the end of it. But it says in the county records that it's 25 years and then renewed automatically every 10 years. So that should still be in effect. We have one property owner requesting a change. It's a typical dollars request. Instead of having 1 lot, there'd be 2 lots. This would change. This is not 1 lot. There are 37 additional lots that meet the same criterion. It's more than 2 acres, split them in half. That would give you 37 lots that would be affected. This would change the character of the community. It's kind of set now. You don't need to do a traffic study to know if you added 37 houses, that would be probably 37 times 2 cars. Nowhere in Pine Ridge are there any septic systems. So as the price discussion took place earlier, that was a concern of the planning board. This would be 37 more septic systems. About 20 to 25% of the properties in Pine Ridge are on city water. The rest of them are wells. And the properties were set aside by the Collier family to know we have this much for ag, and that shouldn't make a deterrent to clean water for the people who have wells there, which is the vast portion of the community. The Collier family specifically set up covenants and restrictions that follow the deed. They're still in place today. I've looked up many of the deeds in Pine Ridge Estates, and they all show restrictions that are on those lots. And these covenants and restrictions still hold water. One of the changes that was made years ago was the church, the Covenant Church, a big church located right on 41, where the church came to the Pine Ridge Civic Association and explained that they wanted to expand the school that they had there, which we thought was good for the community. We, in fact, went to the NIM meeting that they had, and we sided with them. We wrote letters of support to have that done. We are good neighbors, and the church is about the best neighbor you could have there. We have all our meetings there. Which brings me to another point. When this originally began, supposed to have a NIM. There was a meeting held, not in North Naples, it was held downtown. This was a meeting, I think, that was set up to be under the radar. You have the library in North Naples that the commissioner has his meetings in. The church is there. We have our meetings at the church, but yet this so-called NIM was held downtown. There was signs placed on the property. I think his name is Ortman, was the person from the county who was going to be handling this. We made several calls to them. He was out, I think he had a broken shoulder. He was out for a while and couldn't leave a message because his mailbox was full. I called him since then and asked him for a copy of the minutes of the NIM. He said there were no minutes taken. He said, there's notes. I said, could I get a copy of the notes? Which I have. The notes were written by the applicant. I think I have more time. The applicant had written the notes, and one of the questions that was asked of Mr. Ortman at the meeting was, this is one property. What would happen to the other properties? And he said, no, they can apply for it as well. So that's from the county. I had met with Mark Strain and with Nick Castellanguida prior to this, probably 8 or 9 years ago. And 8 or 9 years ago, I asked them specifically, we had some issues, that we be notified, the Pine Ridge Civic Association be notified if there are any changes down the pike on this zoning request. Well, they said they would do that. So the county was notified. I know Nick and Mark are long gone since then, but they spoke for the county. The rules which were put together, Commissioner LaCastro is the one who was the chairman at the time when the new NIM rules came out in 2023.
And wind it up. Thank you.
Is this 6 minutes? This is 3.
No, you've already had 6.
Okay. It went by so quickly, I didn't realize.
It did go by fast.
Okay. Well, I'm requesting that the request for this zoning change be denied. It changes the character of Pine Ridge Estates. Thank you, Commissioner.
Your next speaker is Margot Kaufman. She'll be followed by Matthew Slaughter.
Good morning. My name is Margaret Kaufman. I'm a longtime resident of Pine Ridge Estates. I believe what Mr. Kaufman was saying was, well, let me go on to mine. He had his thing. I'm speaking to express my very, very strong objections to the petition for rezoning, lot splitting and variances to reduce setbacks for the property at 438 Gordonia. I'm requesting that you deny the petitioner's request for the 438 Gordonia property. It doesn't serve any good beneficial purpose for Pine Ridge Estates community. The lot was platted out by Collier County, by the Collier Company, excuse me, in 1954, 57, and 71 with deeded restrictions. They are on our deeds. These restrictions and covenants have served the residents of this community for 70 years and have helped to make it the wonderful place it is. Let's keep it that way. People have bought property in Pine Ridge because of the type of community it is. Please don't allow negative changes to our community. Again, I'm asking you to deny the petitions, and I agree with whatever has been said prior to this. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Matthew Slaughter. He'll be followed by Al Jones.
Good morning, commissioners, or afternoon at this point. I'm the direct neighbor to this petitioner. I share the longest, I'm basically the direct neighbor to this petitioner. And I absolutely respect the rest of the association members and their opinions and my neighbors of this neighborhood. I was born and raised in this neighborhood and happy to be here again when I was able to move to this property that is adjacent to the petitioner. But I am not adamantly opposed. I think maybe if the petitioner worked with the association, worked with the county, and did the right things in this rezoning, that potentially there's a path forward for them to do so. But I understand it's a tough issue, and it does set a bit of a precedent. But given, I think, that you end up with acre lot properties, that I am not imposed as long as that maybe some due diligence is done, and that this petitioner would be required to connect to at least city water if it's available, or any other utility services, so that if they're asking for increased density, they should bring in services that are a benefit to my other adjoining property owners, but also developer there. As an example, there's been some lot splits, but there's also been a lot of assemblages in the neighborhood. There's all sorts of homes. There's old homes that were built in the 70s that get renovated. There's homes that were built in the 2000s that are getting demoed and rebuilt with new properties at the moment. An example is the DeAngelis Diamond project next door. I would see that there maybe is an opportunity for all these new developments to start to bring in utility infrastructure and other things to this neighborhood that does have ag zoning and components to it that are a bit of a vestige from how development used to be. And as redevelopment continues in this neighborhood and at the pace that it does, that the new development should at least be bringing in services that are more in line with what's required of most developers. So currently, I would recommend to deny the application, but maybe with some conditions or changes, the applicant could have my support. So that's all I have to say.
Your next speaker is Al Jones. He'll be followed by Ilana Drenny.
Morning. My name is Al Jones. I live in Pine Ridge on Trail Boulevard, and I've been here for 35 years. And looking at the history of the zoning, we have some 60 or so ag lots down, and they run all the way from East Street all the way around and end up at Carica. Now, for the most part, they're at least an acre and a half. Some of them are 2 acres. And what's been happening is the ag lots have actually been acquiring. We have less ag lots than we had at the beginning because they were acquiring adjacent properties in part or in whole. So the people who are on the ag lots actually are demonstrating that there is a desire to have ag lots. And it gives you the various uses that you're not going to get on a residential. You can have horses, you can have goats, you can have chickens in a large garden, anything else that you might find on an ag lot, and they are being used. Now, if somebody wanted to use a lot, buy a 2-acre lot, split it, that's fine. That's okay. You have no problem with that. But there are plenty of residential lots. There's some 500 residential lots available for that. Maybe not all of them are 2-acre, but a good portion of them are. So, and that's being done. And speaking of the splitting of the lots, over time, there have been some 5 or 6. I mean, this is recently, since like 2017. There's been like 5 residential lots have been split. And the people that split them are developers. They're not there any longer. They're not residents of the community, whereas the people who have bought adjacent lots in the ag area are still with us. So that gives you an idea of what's the people's impression when they come in there to buy a lot and what they're going to do with it. So I would say that you should deny the rezoning on this, because what it will do if you approve this one, and another ones will follow, you're going to have the same chain of investors coming in and following suit, buying the ag lots, and that'll change the entire complexion of the area. And we just don't want that. And each time that a lot is split, that adds another septic tank, which I think that not just here, but all across the state is a move is afoot to get rid of some of the septic tanks. We don't have any sewerage in there, and only some of us have county water. So they just aggravates the whole situation more if the lots get split. But definitely in the middle of the ag area, to change one over to residential just doesn't make sense. The adjacent properties may want to, come in there and buy a portion of the lot that he wants to sell. Okay.
Your next speaker is Alona Drenny. She will be followed by George Lehman.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Ilona Drenny. I'm the current president of the Pine Ridge Estates Civic Association. So I'm here to speak on behalf of the board. We would like for you to deny this petition for rezoning and variance of the applicant. One thing that I want to mention that I believe Bob was trying to get to, didn't get a chance, is that when the NIM was held, the Civic Association should have been notified. Pretty much none of us knew that this was happening. We didn't know about this meeting. We found out much later. We then found out there was only one family that showed up at the meeting. There was a notice in the paper. There was a meeting downtown. This should have been handled much better. If something like this needs to be happened, we need to talk about it as residents of this community. The Pine Ridge Civic Association is a great forum to do that. We're not an HOA, we don't enforce anything, but we have a voice to speak to each other, to get together and to discuss issues that affect all of us. This would change the character of our community. We don't appreciate that, and I believe it would set a precedent also. As they mentioned, there's 37 other lots that they won't be able to do the same thing, and talking about more sewage issues that we have, that we don't have sewage or water, so that would have to add. That would complicate matters even more. So we ask that you please deny this petition. Thank you.
Your final registered speaker is George Lehman.
Chairman, Commissioners, I'm George Lehman. I've lived in Pine Ridge for over 50 years. I can't imagine counting all the campaigns I was involved with for county commissioners those years, but they always had a pledge: bring back or maintain common sense politics. Well, guys, I think this is a chance to do exactly that. So I ask you to deny this application. Thank you.
That was our final speaker, sir.
All right, so I'm a resident of Pine Ridge Estates.
May I have a comment?
No, sir.
I actually,
You want to hear him?
well, no, he's entitled to rebut.
Okay, I want to make a comment. Go ahead. We'll let you rebut.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to be very short here. I just want to say it's a little disappointing because after the Planning Commission, I did reach out to the Pine Ridge Civic Association to kind of work out whatever issues needed to be worked out. And it's just upsetting because they're still a little bit confused about the application itself. Just want to make a few minor clarifications. There are 3 variances requested. If there was no house on the property right now, there would be no variances requested for this petition. The rezoning does not require any variances. The only new variance would be for the side yard. The house is existing as it is right now, so the 2 front yard setbacks exist as they are right now. I also find it a little bit ironic that some of the people that have said they're against this actually also have front yard and side setback variances on their own properties. And the only other thing I would just like to say is that, yes, there may be 37 agricultural lots that they think may be affected, but those other lots would not meet the the LDC requirements to actually split the lots. So there are maybe a handful of lots that would meet the LDC requirements to be able to be split. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. So I live there as well. And what we have, or what we've experienced as residents of Pine Ridge Estates, is an epic process failure. There was a notice given in a dying entity that was not seen by but one couple that lived across the street. The NIM was met, the NIM requirements was met, but that was down in the library downtown. I didn't even know about it. the way that I found out about it is I rode my bike by the signs and then had Louise call and find out what this was all about. That's how I found about it. So the house that sits on the 2 acres right now, it's called a legally non-compliant house, meaning it was built back in the 70s. It was built before the setback requirements were changed, and because it was done before then, it's grandfathered in. So it's legally non-compliant. It's non-compliant to the current setbacks, but it's a legal house as long as it stays there. The covenants that were mentioned, growth management, I discussed this with them. So growth management says, well, we don't take into consideration the covenants. That's a legal matter between the residents and somebody that wants to move in. So I understand that. Staff is limited to the growth management plan, the future land use, the densities that have been allowed in the past. So it's not so much that this is technically bad. It's just that the people they've come out in droves. I mean, I've had phone calls, I've had emails, I have not had phone calls. I've had letters and emails. Once they found out about the ag lots. Now, the ag lots run along between Gordonia and Ridge Street. They run along between those and Goodlet Frank. There's horses out there. The lots are large. This particular lot is in a curve there on Gordonia. And it's an oddball lot, meaning it's not square. And so the petitioner's asking to split it, and then the variances would have to come in so that he could fit 2 residents, on there. Like I said, the staff doesn't consider the covenants, but the people do. And Pine Ridge is a special place. It's a special place. The lots that are there are unmatched in the county. I mean, they're nice and they're close. Would the split be allowable? The answer is yes, if we approved it. Is it preferable? The answer is no. We've heard from the people loud and clear about it. Had they have known about this, they would have voiced their opinion. At the Planning Commission, this came up, and they basically had to ask for a motion to pass it, and then when no second was done, the chair seconded the motion, and then they had a 25-minute discussion. The discussion was basically about whether the covenants were current or not, or whether they had expired. And so after a 25-minute discussion on the covenants, they approved it. And what we find out now is the covenants are in perpetuity. They matter to the people. So we're representing the people of District 2 and the residents of Pine Ridge Estates. I'm not going to be in favor at all of this petition. Commissioner Saunders.
Thank you. I'm not supportive of it either. I had a couple other questions because we've been dealing with variances. And as a matter of fact, I want to bring something up under council communications later on dealing with variances. But the request is to divide the lot, which then necessitates variances. And the law is that you can't have there's supposed to be land-related hardships. And there's supposed to be hardships that are not created by the landowner. And so we have a request to split lots and create several needs for a variance. And I'm just a question for the county attorney. Just like your legal opinion as to whether, I'm not going to support doing this, but I just want your opinion as to whether or not approving a lot split and creating a need for variances would justify having variances under the law that requires the variances not to be created by the landowner, or the hardships not to be created by the landowner.
Variances in Florida by statute require showing of substantial hardship to the applicant. I've not seen that. I don't know how you can do the rezone without without the variance. If the board's belief is that the variance shouldn't be granted, I would suggest that both items be voted down.
I mentioned one other variance that was granted by the hearing examiner, and I'll get with you during the lunch break because I want to discuss that during the council communications, but I agree with Commissioner Hall. I don't support this. I think it changes the character of the neighborhood, has the potential of creating some issues there, but I also don't like the idea of us splitting lots and requiring variances to make those lots buildable.
Commissioner McDaniel.
I agree. I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Hall, and certainly the comments from the community. I found it interesting that we were, and that was one of the reasons why I asked the question at the beginning as to whether or not the variance requests were going to have a negative impact on a neighbor. I found it interesting that we were asking for approval of a variance in order to effectuate a rezone and a lot split, and I didn't find good flavor in that. So I'm going to support, I'm assuming, the inevitable motion that's going to come forward for denial.
Mr. LaCastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I pulled 17A forward, and maybe to the average citizen who's watching this and hasn't done the deeper dive that we've done and that the Planning Commission has done, they sound very similar, and in some cases they are, but they're very, very different. I don't support this one either because there's a reason why the Planning Board, in the case of the what we voted on in my district, they were unanimous in recommending it. Correct, Mr. Bosey? Just say yea or nay. Unanimous. But in this particular case, they weren't for very many reasons that I definitely can see as well. Totally different neighborhood, totally different reasons. So it's not a matter of the exact same thing of just splitting lots. This one brings with it much more complication and it's a totally different, unique circumstance. So, I mean, you know, like Commissioner Saunders always says, you know, you can sort of count noses on this one. I mean, we have yet to hear from Commissioner Colwell, but I had a lot of reservations with this one. And as the county attorney said, you know, you don't vote for the change if you're against the variances. I mean, they sort of go together. And so, you know, that's how I feel. In the case of my district, it didn't have those complications. It was something much different and much cleaner and made more sense. And the Planning Commission agreed. This one, there's a reason the Planning Commission was split, confused, and pushed it to us, I guess.
Yes. So, Commissioner Kowal, are you unmuted? Because we're going to call for a vote. I'm going to make a motion to deny the petition on 8A and 9A.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
So we have a motion and a second to deny both 8A and 9A, both the rezone and the variance. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Mr. Chair, could we pull Mr. Commissioner Cole about 9B real quick?
Yes. Commissioner.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that. It was my fault, human error. I hit the mute button too late. I voted yes in support of 9B with the rest of the commission. You just didn't hear me because I was muted.
We could feel
so
you.
if that helps clarify.
Thank you, Dan.
All right.
Commissioners, we took a vote on that one, correct? Yes, everybody voted. Okay, that brings us to the county manager's agenda. I don't know how you all are feeling about lunch or if we want to keep going. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items on the agenda. Some of them should go quickly, so if you want to push through a couple more, it's at your pleasure.
I think we should go for a couple more. I know that we're going to have several comments and commissioner comments before we get started with the office. We'll just go till 12:30 and then we'll take a break.
Okay, well, let's see if we can knock out the 2 conservation Collier items. I think we can do that in 10 minutes. Those are the next ones up. That would be, and let's hear them together. So that's item 11A and item 11B, and they have long titles, so I'm going to go ahead and read them in while Jamie gets ready. 11A is a recommendation to approve an agreement for sale and purchase under Conservation Collier Land Acquisition Program with one Richard L. Woodworth for a 2.27 acre parcel at a cost of $49,600. 2, CDL Naples Investment LLC for a 2.73 acre parcel at a cost of $59,650. 3, Marcos A. and Elizabeth S. Beckert for a 1.14 acre parcel at a cost of $24,910. 4, Peggy Ann Arnold and the Arnold Trust for a 7.16 acre parcel at a cost of $141,140, and 5, the Land Genie LLC for a 2.73 acre parcel at a cost of $62,790 for a total cost not to exceed $346,790 inclusive of closing costs. Then, item 11B is a recommendation to approve an agreement for sale and purchase under Conservation Collier Land Acquisition Program with one Nelson Granados for a 5.15 acre parcel at a cost of $106,860. 2, Nancy A. Waters, William C. Barthusmeyer, and Judith A. Moulton individually and as trustee of the revocable trust agreement number 012645 dated December 18th, 2015 for a 7.17 acre parcel at a cost of $141,340. 3, Anna Margarita Taylor Abram as plenary guardian of the person and property of Anna L. Taylor, surviving spouse of Ernesto Taylor, for 5 acres at a cost of $98,650. And 4, Nancy A. Walsh for a 1.14 acre parcel at a cost of $19,494 for a total cost not to exceed $373,834 inclusive of closing costs. Ms. Jamie Cook, your Development Review Division Director, will present on both of these items.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jamie Cook for the record. So the 9 properties that you have before you for consideration between the 2 items, 8 of those properties are within the Gore Preserve and 1 within Red Maple Swamp. Troy, not working. Oh, there we go. So the first 5 that are in item 11A are highlighted in pink on this map of the Gore Preserve. The Gore Preserve was established in 2018 as a multi-parcel project. To date, about 220 acres, which is about 55% of the project area, has been acquired. The Gore Preserve is located in the southern Golden Gate Estates. DeSoto Boulevard runs through the middle of the preserve, and it is just north of I-75. The preserve provides habitat for a variety of wildlife, including listed species such as the Florida panther, wading birds, the bonneted bat, and black bear. It contributes to the wildlife corridor of public and private conservation lands, including the North Belmead Preserve, which is in the bright yellow to the far left of the map, the Rural Fringe Mixed-Use District Sending Lands, the Panther Refuge, which is the bright green teal to the eastern part of the map to the right, the Rural Land Stewardship Area Stewardship Sending Areas 6 and 18, as well as Picayune Strand and Fakahatchee Strand State Park. The first parcel on this in this agenda is the Woodworth parcel. It is 2.27 acres in the northwest section of the preserve. The property contains both wetland and vegetation and soils, and the purchase price is 95% of the appraised value of the property. Although it's not currently connected to any other Conservation Collier parcels, because this is a multi-parcel project that has continued to be approved by the board the last 6 years, staff does continue to engage with those owners surrounding this parcel to try to connect the parcels. The CDL investment parcel is 2.73 acres in the northeast section of the preserve and does contain 100% wetland vegetation and soils. It does connect to an existing Conservation Collier parcel on its southern boundary. And again, the purchase price is 95% of the appraised value of the property. The Beckert parcel is 1.14 acres of mixed scrub-shrub habitat and wetland soils. The property is entirely surrounded by Conservation Collier parcels. And again, this purchase price of $24,910 is 95% of the appraised value of the property. The Arnold Trust parcel is 7.16 acres of cypress wetlands and wetland soils in the southeast portion of the property. Directly east is another property for consideration, which is part of item 11B. And the 3 parcels that are directly to the east of that were approved by you all in September and October and closed in December. So those are existing Conservation Collier parcels. Again, the purchase price is 95% of the appraised value of the property. And then finally, for item 11A, the Langini parcel is 2.73 acres in the northern section of the preserve. Approximately half of the property contains wetland soils, but it does contain cypress wetland vegetation. It does abut a existing Conservation Collier parcel on its southern boundary. And similarly to the Woodworth parcel, which was to the west of this, we continue to engage with those surrounding homeowners, property owners, as part of the multi-parcel project that you continue to approve each year. These 5 properties consist of a total of 16.03 acres of land, and if acquired, this acreage would be added to the Gore Preserve. With that, staff recommends acquiring these 5 parcels as part of the Conservation Collier Land Acquisition Program at a cost not to exceed $346,790. With that, I can take any questions or go on to item 11B.
Ms. Cook, can you go back to the first map, please? So the ones that are outside of the existing Conservation Collier lands is Woodworth, Langini, CDL, and the other 2 are tied in there. So those are the 3 that are out there. Is that the only 3 that are not really attached to the rest of the preserve?
Correct. CDL is connected on its southern boundary, but for the most part, yes, you're correct, sir.
All right, thank you.
Let's go to the next. I mean, whatever the chair wants to do.
Let's go to the next one.
Roy, can you help me? Okay, so again, I won't go through all of this again since we're kind of hearing these together, but 3 of the 4 parcels are still within the Gore Preserve. They are indicated in the blue on this map. The Granados parcel, the Moulton Trust parcel, and the Taylor parcel. And then the 4th property is within the Red Maple Swamp, which is in the northern Golden Gate Estates, just north of Twin Eagles. So we'll go directly to the Granados parcel, which again is in the northern part of the Gore Preserve. It consists of 5.15 acres of mixed hardwood wetlands. It is non-hydric soils, so it wouldn't require as much mitigation if it were to be developed by the state. It is not currently connected to any other parcels owned by Conservation Collier, but for awareness, the parcel directly to the east has accepted an offer, and that purchase agreement is slated to come before you within the next couple of meetings, depending on the rest of the schedule. The purchase price is of $106,860 is 100% of the appraised value of the property. The Moulton Trust parcel is 7.17 acres. It is 100% wetlands and wetland soils, and it is adjacent to the Arnold Trust parcel, which we just discussed, as well as 3 parcels directly to its east, which were acquired by Conservation Collier in the fall. And then finally, within the Gore Preserve, the Taylor parcel is 5 acres. Directly west of DeSoto Boulevard on 40th Avenue Southeast. The property consists of wetland hardwood vegetation, and about 40% of it contains wetland soils. It is surrounded by existing Conservation Collier parcels on its east, west, and north. So this one would kind of fill in an existing hole within the preserve. And then finally, the last parcel is within the Red Maple Swamp. We haven't really discussed much about Red Maple Swamp, but it was established as a multi-parcel project similar to Gore and Winchester had back in 2005. The preserve is off of Shady Hollow Boulevard in the northeastern Golden Gate Estates. It's adjacent to both public and private conservation lands, including Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary, Crude District lands, including the Bird Rookery Swamp, as well as private conservation lands, including those belonging to Twin Eagles, Heritage Bay, the Quarry, Esplanade Country Club, Bonita Bay, and Riverstone, as well as Old Cypress. To date, Conservation Collier has acquired about 80% of this project area and has 22 remaining parcels, inclusive of the one that you will be reviewing today. Red Maple Swamp consists of habitat for wildlife, including the Florida panther, black bear, and wading birds. The habitat is mostly cypress as well as red maple swamp. And the area provides significant floodplain storage and protection of the surface and groundwater resources in this area of the county. The Walsh parcel is 1.14 acres, consisting of forested and shrub wetlands, and it is 100% wetland soils. The parcel is surrounded by Conservation Collier parcels in green to its north, west, and east. And the purchase price of $19,494 is 95% of the appraised value of the property. These 4 parcels would add 18.46 acres of land to the program, mostly within the Gore Preserve, but also within Red Maple Swamp. And with that, staff's recommendation would be to approve the purchase agreements for these 4 parcels and acquire the parcels as part of the Conservation Collier Land Acquisition Program at a cost not to exceed $373,834. And with that, I will take any questions.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, if you would go back to the map for both Red Maple Swamp and the Gore Preserve, that
This one?
you're a quicker clicker than I am.
Quicker clicker.
Quicker clicker. Has this area been designated as a TPA?
Red Maple Swamp, it is not a TPMA, but when it is approved as part of the multi-parcel project, every year we do send letters to this area.
Okay, how about the Gore Preserve?
Same with that. The Gore Preserve, there is a, north of this project boundary is where the
You threw an M
TPMA
in
is.
there. TPA is Target Protection Area. What's the M stand for?
Target Protection Mailing Area.
Okay.
So just north of this is a target mailing area.
Just north of, are all
The
these
preserve
parcels that are delineated in gray? I know the green the Conservation Collier already owns.
Correct.
And the ones that are delineated in gray are part of that TPMA?
No.
No.
So the ones in gray are part of the multi-parcel project boundary. And then the TPMA, which would expand the Gore Preserve, is directly to the north of this.
And obviously over to the east off of Everglades, we've got a TPA
Correct.
over there, TPMA over there.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So the people in gray that are within the Gore, they are not receiving mail?
They do.
They
They,
do,
they receive them yearly, yes, sir.
Just counting, we're talking about 8 lots in total, right? You presented 5 and then 3?
There's 9.
9, okay.
Yes.
8 within Gore and 1 within Red Maple Swamp.
Gotcha, okay.
I'm just going to throw it out there. I see the value in the product in the properties that are adjacent or filling holes. I'm not a fan of the Woodworth and the Langini and the CDL investment. They're just kind of willy-nilly out there on their own. I understand that in the future we could join those, and that would be my preference, is to put those in when we have something that would join up and fill the puzzle, so to speak. So I'm going to make a motion to approve everything except for those 3. And that would be with the exception of Woodworth, CDL, and the Langini. Commissioner Saunders.
Mr. Chairman, just on the motion, assuming that motion's approved, I assume that we can make a subsequent motion on the other 3.
Sure.
You want to take them individually?
One at a time, yeah.
Yeah, that's,
I would say.
you want to do you want to go back to the beginning on 11A and have a discussion on those 5 parcels on 11A or 8, however many are in there, and pull out the ones you want? Because, yeah,
I'm all about it. So we can talk about Woodworth, the 11A, number 1. I'm not a fan.
Go back to the Woodworth slide if you would.
it's on there right now.
Well, it's all of them, but didn't you have a separate one for Woodworth? Just wanted to look at the specs again. I agree too. I hate seeing these little puzzle pieces, but then, 2 months from now, we'll come back saying, oh, the adjacent lot wants to sell, and if we would have bought Woodworth, and I mean, I'm just speculating, but, I like buying the things that are in the heart of a Conservation Collier footprint already, and this is the last piece of the puzzle. But then, there's several people that could be at the mic right now saying, well, you got to start with the first piece. That's why I just wanted to take a look at this slide, see what we were paying. This was 95% of appraisal, right? But like out in the middle of nowhere.
Commissioner Saunders.
Yeah. I think there was, I may be guessing, but I think there would have been general support for the motion that you made to purchase the 5 parcels. The question would be what to do with the other 3, and that's why I was going to ask if we do a subsequent motion. So I'm suggesting that we go back, unless Commissioner McDaniel and Commissioner LaCastro have some problems, and Commissioner Cole will have some problems with those 5. Why don't we take those off the table by supporting your motion to acquire those, and then go one by one on the other 3.
Well, there's 9 total.
Correct.
Red Maple Swamp will be good. I'm not including, I'm including approving the Red Maple Swamp one. I'm just talking about these ones right here in the Gore Preserve, these 3 properties in the Gore.
So you would have 6 that you support.
Yes. And then these 3 we can discuss.
And those are all connected. So why don't we take your motion and then deal with the other 3 individually?
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, so we'll have some discussion on these 3 properties, the Woodworth, the CDL, and the Land Genie. Commissioner McDaniel.
Well, let's vote on that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the 6 without the Woodworth, the CDL, and the Land Genie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
No,
We got you.
I'm assuming it's
A little late.
All right, now we can discuss the 3 at the top there. Commissioner McDaniel?
Yeah, was there somebody ahead of me?
Oh, well, you were up there. Commissioner Kowal?
I put my hand up because I can't see what you guys are seeing sometimes. And I know the Woodworth, the Land Genie, and the CDL, I think were the 3 we're discussing now.
Yes, sir.
I know at one point somebody said they wanted to see it again. It never popped up for me, but just giving you aware that sometimes I can't see exactly what you guys are looking at.
Yeah, we can't see the slides. Yeah.
Yeah, she was slipping through. Would you go to the map where they're delineated with pink and blue? There we go. That has them. That has all of the ones in the Gore Preserve area, and the Red Maple, I think, off in its own. Correct?
Correct, yeah.
And Jamie, pop in if there's something we're missing. I mean, I agree with Commissioner Hall as well. When I see these lots sitting out in the middle of nowhere, I'd rather use the money for something that is more specific. But if there's something that in further planning, like the lots adjacent to these lots are about to come up for purchase, or if you want to reiterate the value of these lots, this is a big panther preserve. It's a big, something that maybe we missed as you're going through 9 different lots. I don't want to miss anything.
I will say that to Commissioners McDaniel's question about the target mailing area, there are several parcels just north of this that have applied to the program. So those are expected to come forward with the active acquisition list.
But now I'm ready. Can you call? That will just expand the Gore Preserve area.
Correct.
Okay. And I'm going to say this. I mean, this is a hugely environmentally sensitive area. We've always had discussions with regard to wildlife traversing out of the Panther Preserve through this area, hopefully someday we'll talk about a wildlife crossing on Everglades Boulevard over into the eastern side of the North Belmead and that area that's established over there. So, I mean, based upon my reading of the description of the hydric soils, the environmental sensitivity of these lots, I'm not opposed to the acquisition of them. I would have originally approved the acquisition of all of them. I understand with deference the thought process of a theoretical piecemealing, but sometimes when you're putting a puzzle together, you don't get to start on one corner and work your way through. This area has been designated as a extremely environmentally sensitive area, and I'm not going to throw myself on the sword on these acquisitions, but these are acquisitions that the program can and will add to over time, filling in that puzzle.
Commissioner Saunders.
Thank you. I think we all know where we're going to be on these. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion just on the Woodworth. I'll do one at a time. The Woodworth property, I make a motion to go ahead and acquire that.
Second it.
Yeah, was that to acquire it? I missed.
Yes, to acquire it. I'm sorry. Yes, to acquire it.
Yes.
All right, motion and second to approve the Woodworth. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman.
He's
Are
against.
you for or against, Commissioner Kowal?
I said aye, sorry, for 4.
Okay, 4. 4 to 1.
All right, I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, on the Land Genie parcel to acquire it.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Yeah,
He's
there's
delayed.
a slight delay there. We
I'll
may wanna
wait. I'll
pause.
wait for the next one, but he was for it.
And then, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the CDL investment parcel as well.
Second.
Motion is made to acquire CDL investment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
I opposed that one, sorry. There's 3-2.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to lunch. So it's 12:43. Is 1:30 soon enough? Can everybody get her done by 1:30? Let's do it. We'll be back at 1:30.